There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2 of Fan Friction. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today we have some very special guests. My name is Jack Shipley. I am the host of the show. Returning to the show from Houston, Texas, our first fighter has appeared in almost every episode of our Fan Friction show since the beginning. She's a fierce fighter, a knowledgeable fact checker. Please welcome back Ashley Davis.
Hey everybody, it's so exciting to be here. I'm operating on very little sleep, so we'll see how this goes.
Welcome back, welcome back. Our second guest is a writer-producer for BlackGirlNerds.com. She is an avid gamer, comic book fan, internet addict, and lover of all things geek. Today is her first time appearing on the show. Please say hello to Jacqueline Cooley. Is it Cooley or Coley?
Coley. It doesn't matter.
Sorry,
it
Jacqueline Coley. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. This is fantastic.
Awesome.
And finally, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad to be here. Want to do a good job, hopefully, so I'm ready.
You're going to do awesome. Thanks for coming. And our special guest, you've seen her on Collider TV Talk and the Schmoes Know Network. She's the co-host of Summer Movie Report with Dan Merle on Screen Junkies Plus and the co-host of FX Movie Download on the FX Network. Please give a warm welcome to the incomparable Sasha Perl-Raver.
Who's sitting on the floor to keep her cat quiet so that he can hang out. Because otherwise you're going to hear in the back of all of my answers. At some point. But for right now, we're just trying to chill him out.
Wait till you
used
hear,
to that on this show, so it's cool.
Yeah, Ashley's cat makes some noise.
We've quarantined her.
Oh, yeah. He's my good luck charm, but we'll see what happens.
And real quick, with us again this week are the hosts of the Odd Shape panel, which you can see right here on TUFF on Mondays. Please welcome back to our checker chair, our very own dynamic duo, Tom and Kimber.
Hello. Hi.
Good to see you guys again. All right, so if you've never seen the show before, there are 5 rounds of movie debate. Our panelists will debate for a movie or actors or different subjects, and the winner will get a point. The first person to get 2 points will be moving on to the lightning round, and then if anybody else gets 2 points, they will also move on, or we will have a tiebreaker. And then the lightning round is a best of 5, where we see who is the fan fiction champion. So I'm trying to move fast today because Sasha has a very busy schedule.
We're good. So, now that we've started early, we're totally good. So
well, then I'm going to go out for some breakfast because I'm really hungry.
Go have some fun.
And you guys just talk.
Tacos.
All right, so let's get into it, guys. Round 1. And I don't have Apollo Creed to say ding ding, but he would if he could. What is the best summer movie released on an Independence Day weekend? So it has to be in that weekend of July, like 1st to 4th, 5th, whenever it would normally fall. And in today's fight, we are going to start with Ashley. What'd you pick?
Oh, Lord, why do I have to go first?
Because you got the notes.
Yes, that's why. All right, so in the list that we were provided, it had a plethora of choices, some good, some bad, and you know, when you think of summer movies, you think of like high-octane action and just like, you know, have a good time, you know, leaving the theater pumped up. So I've chosen Terminator 2 Judgment Day as my pick that was technically released in that July 4th weekend, which kind of, you know, there's a loose terminology for that. This movie did something that was kind of unprecedented where it was actually better than the movie that that came before it, with the Terminator from '84, and for a while, this was one of the higher grossing sequels of all time. And you know, you get to see Arnold Schwarzenegger come back as that iconic character, but instead of being the villain, now he is turned the hero. We get to see Sarah Connor again. We're introduced to her son John Connor, and it's just a fun, action-packed thrill ride that leaves you wanting more until you remember that there are sequels, and we won't count those because Cameron didn't direct them. So that's my opening argument.
Awesome. Fantastic. Jacqueline, what did you pick?
Okay, for my summer pick, I basically looked at this. I was saying, okay, what makes you want to leave margaritas and the beach to go inside and see a movie? So it's got to be something really good. And so I chose Back to the Future, best movie ever, just on its own, and then it's also a great film. There's just not a lot of films out there that, you know, 30 years plus are still awesome, still fun, and something that not only you can go see, but, you know, summer movies are about family. Like, it's the one time sometimes people get together to, like, be a family. So I chose Back to the Future.
Fantastic.
Jumping gigawatts.
All right, Sasha, what did you pick?
I went with Apollo 13, which is a film that kind of goes against the constraints of what we think most, July 4th movies should have. It is high-octane action, which is what Ashley brought up. It is something that talks about family, which is something Jacqueline brought up. But in this film, what you have is a tense, major drama that yet somehow still is an action movie, somehow still is a suspense film, and pushed filmmaking forward in a way that we hadn't seen before. Like when they used the vomit comment, nobody had done that before, and it totally changed what we expected from filmmaking because it made something like T2 uses CGI, but Apollo 13 uses CGI and actual practical technology in a way that totally shifted what we would expect from filmmaking, and that's why it was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, and it's the best one that came out on July 4th weekend.
Awesome.
No, it's the bougiest one. I was just going to say, Sasha, that's a great choice if you want to have, a science fiction movie and like talk about Ron Howard and Tom Hanks. But we're talking about popcorn fun, and you're not going to get kids on a summer movie to want to sit through that movie. It's a great movie. It was well made. I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but we're talking about 4th of July. You're telling me you're going to leave the beach to go sit and watch Apollo 13. Really?
Yeah, because the beach is hot. And to sit in space, space is cool. Space is relaxing. You get to float in space. Well, here's the thing about families. I think that movie actually is a 4-quadrant movie. It's a movie that did appeal to adults. It did appeal to kids because there was a historical aspect to it. It was a biopic. And also it appealed to men and women. So I did think that it was a cross-section film as opposed to Back to the Future is the bomb. It's a great movie. It is not, however, the best movie ever made. I think The Godfather has some things to say about that. I think Citizen Kane has some things to say about that. But for a fun film. But when you're talking about like an amazing sequel, an amazing trilogy, an amazing like franchise, I think actually Terminator is stronger than Back to the Future.
Oh, you are on crack.
No, it's better. And if you're going to talk about the era of Ron Howard and Tom Hanks, it was never stronger, although I do love Splash, than it was in Apollo 13.
Girl, you're going to have to show me the receipts. I'm sorry,
my problem with Apollo 13 is like, okay, 52 minutes, finally some dramatic stuff is happening. It's like they couldn't, like I was sitting there bored, like, okay, when is it, like I know, like my mom worked for the space program, like I know how like dramatic things can be, like when you're trying to send a mission to launch, and like they really highlighted how like boring and blasé, like, going to the moon had become in that time period, and it's like, okay, like you need to like quicken this up, like this is like literally like the 52-minute mark is when, anything exciting finally happens, and it's just like...
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I was just saying, Paul 13, well-made movie. It's Oscar caliber. Ron Howard did a great job. But we're not just talking about, hey, this is a well-made movie. We're talking about the 4th of July. We're talking about Independence Day. There's fireworks. You want to see fireworks on the screen as well. And I would say Back to the Future definitely has that with the action and the last scene at the beginning, all of the stuff that goes on between the family aspect. It talks a lot about, doing what's right and going back and changing things isn't necessarily the best thing. There's a lot more heart, I feel, to Back to the Future than people realize. And again, what movie of these 3 could you release 30 years later and it still like dominate, like a $5 million day just to have it re-released?
I'm sorry. You're comparing the fireworks of a guitar solo to the fireworks of a space shuttle exploding and 3 men being trapped and possibly dying.
They didn't die. They didn't die.
Yeah, they came back. They were fine.
Spoiler alert, they made it.
It's like around the moon. That is science. That is math. That is human drama. That is everything that we want, because what we're celebrating on 4th of July is not fireworks, because that's China. What we're celebrating on 4th of July is America. And if you want to talk about America, you don't turn to the Terminator, because that's the Governator. If you want America, you go NASA. You go, Houston, we have a problem.
What's more America than rock and roll? And you have Huey Lewis in the News providing the most rock and roll awesome soundtrack through that movie.
Spirit in the Sky is better than Huey Lewis, and
oh my God. Listen, we're going to get into the music
Spirit in the Sky gets people more pumped. No way. Spirit in the Sky. Going up to the spin in the sky.
Sing it. Stop it. I will say this. This is the reason why Apollo 13, I'll just go ahead and put this out there. Great movie. And Terminator 2, is also a great movie. But do you really want to watch a dystopian future? Like, we don't want kids to walk out of the movie depressed. And as awesome as Apollo 13 is, it's like going to watch Titanic. It's like, we know what's going to happen. We know where this is going. If you hadn't taken someone to see Back to the Future, I do feel they'll be surprised. They'll love it, and they'll feel that tension in the end when Doc is trying to get the electricity to go across. And who has not felt like George McFly, that person who felt like an outcast and didn't necessarily get the best things in life? And how triumphant is that he manages to redeem himself? And again, the trilogy of those three, don't get me started on the, like, bastard children from Terminator. Like, they was the worst thing that ever happened.
Different director. We're not going to count those. We erase those from memory.
You don't get to make rules like
I do too. I'm a teacher. I can make any rules I want.
There she is.
My problem with Back to the Future is, like, that movie, you know, is very fitting of its time period and the time travel, but then when, like, as an adult you go back and look at it, there are some really creepy aspects of that film that you don't realize, especially, like, at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, where it's like Biff, like, he tries to, like, rape Marty's mom. It's like, okay, like, that's not,
and
like...
he got his ass kicked for it.
Yeah, but Marty's mom was trying to rape her own child. That's
the whole Oedipus thing, and
America.
And fun fact, Back to the Future is banned in China because time travel in their culture disrespects history. So
yeah, they also banned witchcraft, so they didn't have Harry Potter. Like, come on, that's their problem.
But no, and then, you know, talking about family earlier, like, Terminator 2 is about family. Like, Sarah Connor is, like, trying to...
The most dysfunctional family ever.
It's a dysfunctional family, but look at a lot of families we have in our country sometimes. You know, there's not all cookie-cutter perfect families. Marty McFly's family was very dysfunctional as well, you know, before he went back to the future, and, you know, or back to the past and changed everything. And then, even though Terminator 2 is an R-rated movie, I mean, the marketing people didn't really get that memo, considering that they actually released action figures for that film, and those were very popular when I was a kid. I remember lots of people playing with those at the playground. And it's just dystopian.
It's a fun movie, but I just don't feel like if you sat, you know, an average family of 4 down and you said, hey, we're going to give you these 3 you're going to watch over the holiday weekend, they're going to choose yours. And I think that's a big part of what makes a good 4th of July movie is who it's going to appeal to. And
so who doesn't want Tom Hanks? Who doesn't want to sit down and spend some time with Tom Hanks? Because I personally don't really care about spending a bunch of hours with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I love Michael J. Fox, but I'll watch a bunch of reruns of Family Ties before I would sit down and watch Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 again. And I appreciate all of these movies. Like, let's say these are all really good movies. This is a difficult fight. But if you're talking about a film that shifted what we expect from cinema, nothing shifted cinema more than Apollo 13. And that's why I think it's so great. You think that Back to the Future shifted what we expect?
Not in cinema. Not in cinema. Listen. Back to the Future shifted how we saw the action sci-fi comedy. It really did. It was kind of the first one that kind of did that in a new and different way. Look at, it's still going on today. Rick and Morty was inspired by Back to the Future. This whole idea of this, you know, paternal guy taking, you know, on these science adventures with this younger kid.
Rick and Morty's also inspired by Pinky and the Brain. So,
but it's more Doc and they're flying to different worlds in a spaceship. I mean,
Star Trek.
So let me start getting some final thoughts here. Ash, why don't you lead us off? Why is T2 the best Independence Day weekend movie versus the other two?
All right, so T2 is the best Independence Day movie because when it's Independence Day, you know, it's a fun holiday, not necessarily, you know, like a family, you know, it is a family holiday, but not everybody has a family. And if you're, you know, like me that doesn't have any children, you know, you're not going to go to see a family, you know, fair movie on that weekend. You're going to want something that's kind of like a counter programming. And so I love action movies. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger may not be always my favorite actor, but he is really great in this role, probably because he only had like 700 words to speak in the whole movie. But, you know, like all of the mix of CGI and practical effects in this movie, I mean, this movie came out in 1991, and a lot of those effects really hold up today, and I love seeing that kind of thing in film where, like, they worked so hard to make a good product that it still can hold up versus other movies from that time. And it's just a fun movie, and it's also heartfelt too. You see Sarah Connor's worried about, like what's going to happen to everybody. No one will listen to her. And then at the very end, when they kill the T-1000, and then they realize that Arnold has to die as well. That he has to destroy the chip in his head too, and he's she lowers him down into that pool of, I guess, magma or lava. I forgot because I don't teach science, so sorry about that, fact checkers. And he's holding up his little thumb, and poor John Connor, that was he just met him that in that short span of time, but that was his friend, and it just breaks your heart even though it's an action movie. So
I don't know why you cry. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's maybe not the most family-friendly film, but it's full of action and excitement, and that's the kind of thing that you want on the 4th of July.
Jacqueline, sorry.
Okay.
Your movie.
Okay, again, I like both of these movies, but if you really want to talk about it, let's talk about having fun. And as great as both of those movies are, at the end of it, you're not having fun. You're right. You do cry at the end when Arnold Schwarzenegger's character dies. And at the end of Apollo 13, yeah, you do have that kind of yay moment where you're like, that's awesome that they made it through. But I don't think you have near as much fun as you do through the entire film of Back to the Future. And it did do some things to revolutionize itself. In 1985, the effects that they were able to do in that film were really cutting edge. And they are, again, not going to compare to the CGI effects of now, but they're not laughably bad. That's definitely still parts of that movie where you're like, it still looks cool to see, Marty and Doc, jumping around in the flying car. So I do think there's something to be said for that. And there's something also to be said for the fact that on the 4th of July, yes, it is about America, but it's not the only thing. It's about coming together. It's about being with family. That's what holidays in general are about. And so even if you don't have kids, I don't think everybody that went and saw the movie this year or last year has kids. They wanted to go see it, and they packed out theaters on a Wednesday because it's a movie that still resonates with people today. So that's why I think Back to the Future.
Apollo 13.
Why is Apollo 13 the best of these movies? Because if you're talking about the 4th of July, what you're talking about is celebrating the spirit of America. And Apollo 13 was a moment in our nation's history that was forgotten. It was completely ignored. And when you look back on it, that is the true celebration of what America is. It's about people coming together. It's about people rising up above difficulties, and it's about making a stand as a nation. We came together as a nation during that crisis, and that, to me, speaks more to what America is about than families getting together, because let's be real, 4th of July is about fireworks and barbecue and getting drunk, and you can do all of those things once you leave the theater, but you will not have the cathartic experience that Apollo 13 gives you, which starts with, yes, maybe a little bit of boring stuff, but that's because it's building up character into this thing that I personally hadn't known about, that my dad remembers watching as a kid, that changed so much of what our space program would be. The space program, which again is a huge pillar in American history. Think about the space race. Think about what that meant to this country. That is why, to me, you have one of the most proudly American actors, Tom Hanks, in an incredible story that I wouldn't have known otherwise, and you have one of the great catchphrases of all time, Houston, we have a problem.
Wow.
Where I'm going, we don't need roads. Come on. I'm sorry.
Ding, wow. What a great first round. And listen, before I go to the fact checkers real quick, if you want to get in on the conversation, we do follow our tweets live. It's This Is Tough. That's TUFF on Twitter. Tom and Kimber, talk about the facts a little bit here in this round.
As far as facts, it was a very opinionated battle. Surprised no one went as far as what it brought in financially, but that's fine.
That's because mine made a little less than theirs.
Yeah.
Well, and they were released at such disparate times,
Yeah, you got to bring it in.
Adjust for inflation.
I brought up the re-release. That was the only one I wanted to talk about.
But the one fact I did have to check, it was not lava or magma, it was liquid steel, Ashley.
I'm sorry.
Science.
I'll just leave right now. It's okay.
Science.
So
Bye.
Pretty live right now. We're getting a lot of love from Langley M. Neely and Coop DeBill, among others, really loving the all-female panel.
Oh, thanks, Langley.
Ladies.
Morgan Freeman, our buddy out there, is tweeting about Swayze. He's
Nice.
Men in Black and Independence Day seem to be the favorites among Twitter for missed choices. And Hercules, at Hercules, says Independence Day is the obvious answer and the right one.
And we don't go with obvious answers on this panel.
Not on this show. Oh my gosh.
I'm not basic.
Or you having to go with your first choice and settling for the second one, you know.
Do we have a
What was your first choice?
Your choice? Your choice?
Yeah, yours is my second choice, too.
I do have that poll after you pick a winner, of course.
Wonderful. Wow, this is a really fantastic and difficult round to judge. Jacqueline, I did have to take some points off for you not knowing that the flying car is called a DeLorean. Sorry. It's liquid steel. Ashley, there's some negative points here for you there too.
I'm sorry.
When I was looking through, no, I'm kidding. No, but when I was looking at the arguments, Ashley made some great points for an Arnold movie, but I think what we really lacked in that was a description about how the elements in that movie were fun versus Jacqueline, who really sold how Back to the Future was fun, and Sasha really highlighted the filmmaking achievement as well as the significance of her movie. So for me, it's falling between Jacqueline and Sasha. Wow, Sasha, you really hit the America patriotism card hard on that one. But they do kind of hit you with it. It is a really slow movie. It takes like 45 minutes for anything to happen. And when I go to see Independence Day weekend movies, I want to have fun. I want to be entertained. And I love Tom Hanks, but it's so dense, that film, that I have to go with the fun of Back to the Future. And that means, Jacqueline, you win point number 1. Well done.
Ooh, that one, I'm not going to lie, that one, I'm just glad I got 1 point. I can go home happy. I'm not going to embarrass myself, and we can keep fighting. You ladies are awesome, by the way. This is going to be a hard-fought one.
You cannot go home yet. I have to book. This is an entire show. We have to get through all of it. So we are going to move over to round 2. Well done, everybody, by the way. That was a fantastic round. The poll. Yes. I'm sorry.
So, Back to the Future actually took the poll with 56%, followed by Terminator 2, and actually that got 44%, and unfortunately Apollo 13 got no love on the poll this time.
You guys hate America. Hate America. That's what it is.
You know what? That's the movie maker's choice, though, Sasha. I give you props for that one. That's the movie maker choice, Yeah,
another thing, I think Ashley had you really sold me on the fact that Terminator 2, for its time, was a huge technical achievement. They were doing things with special effects in that movie that won awards. It was the first time we'd ever seen anything like that with the liquid metal effects that they were doing, so like that. And I think if I had gotten a little bit more, it would have fought a little better. But anyway, good job, Jacqueline. Fantastic round. We're going to move on to round 2, and this round I call Summer Movie Report. I don't know why. What is the one movie from this 2016 lukewarm summer movie season so far that everyone must see? And I'd like to start with Jacqueline on this one.
Okay, so my choice is a film. When I looked at, which one should you see, I wanted to pick a film that kind of is unique to 2016 and a film that I feel got missed for various different reasons. And the film that I picked is the farting corpse movie, Swiss Army Man, because I really think this movie is something that after 2016, regardless of what happens, if you saw this movie, you're going to be able to talk about it. I mean, Harry Potter is a corpse, and Daniel Radcliffe, uses him to, jet ski. And this is the kicker about this movie. The reason why I think people missed it, and the reason why I think people should see it, is because it was very hard to market. It's not a film that fits into a specific category, but once you watch it, the fact that it hits all those different marks is what makes it great. It has heart, it has adventure, it has tension, and it also is ridiculously funny because it's a farting corpse movie, which you just can't not laugh about some of it. It really hits a lot of different places, and at the end of it, I don't want to give it away, you are standing up and cheering happiness for these characters and what they've been able to achieve. It has that indie feel to it where it says more than what's put on the screen, but it's also just a flat-out funny movie. And I do think when you look at what you should see things that are going to not only drive emotions, but are going to be memorable later on. And so don't go see the same thing we've already seen. Go see something different, a little small independent film that I think is just absolutely great.
Wonderful. Sasha, what did you pick?
Well, if you had asked me this question yesterday, I would have had a different answer, and that answer would have been Suicide Squad. But I have not seen it yet, so my answer now is you should have seen The Nice Guys, guys. The Nice Guys, which is Shane Black, kiss, kiss, bang, bang, baby. Shane Black, who is one of the most inventive and original voices that we have in broad spectrum cinema right now. I think that Swiss Army Man was a really interesting movie, but so was The Nice Guys, in that The Nice Guys was a movie that had it been made in the 90s or in the 70s, it would have been huge. But because it was made in the 2000s and we have different expectations now, it was just sort of forgotten. It is the best chemistry between two actors I have seen in a very long time. Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. I mean, you want to talk about 4th of July? Those were the fireworks that I needed. It is visually so interesting and rich. It draws from so many great other films that we love, from like Maltese Falcon, going through all of like basically the 70s spy movies into the 90s and the 2000s, and that sort of retro feel that we love and my house is slightly decorated in, of that mid-century hipster modern. But it's also a really interesting story that we have not seen in a while.
Did we lose Sasha?
No, I'm here. I hear her.
Here.
You may not hear her, but I hear her.
I hear me.
I hear her.
I think that it was funny. It was smart, it was original, and it could have kicked off a franchise that I personally would have loved to have watched for many years to come. But you guys didn't put your money where your mouths were. Boo.
All right. Real quick, just to make sure, Jacqueline, are you back to hearing everybody?
Yeah, I lost y'all for like a minute, but I got you now. Sorry.
All right, wonderful. I just want to make sure you could hear. Ashley, what did you pick?
All right, so I do not have the same level of access to independent films as these two ladies, nor do I have a lot of summer movie spending money when it comes to, going to see everything. So I have not seen a lot of movies this summer. I'm just going to lay that card out on the table. So I picked something that, from the moment this was announced in papers and online, was like, oh my God, my childhood is now ruined. This is a dumpster fire. Before even one frame of film was shot. And that was the Ghostbusters remake with Paul, is it Feig or Feig? I don't know how to say his name.
Paul
okay.
Feig.
Thank you. Yeah, with him helming the direction and starring Saturday Night Live alums and guest star, Kristen Wiig, now I'm like, all the names are like blanking on me, but yeah, Kristen Wiig, who's this, powerhouse on SNL or was, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, and then Melissa McCarthy, who is, and then Wiig and McCarthy had also worked with Feig on other projects. But again, from the moment this was announced, people were like, I already hate this movie because you're ruining my childhood. Like, women can't be Ghostbusters and all sorts of things. When they released the trailer for this online, and I'll admit the trailer was, not well crafted. That's a problem that Feig has in his trailers, that they don't really capture the essence of like how funny the movie can actually be. So like the trailer for this was like the most disliked trailer in the history of YouTube, and probably will hold that distinction for a while. When people finally started being able to review this movie, and a lot of the reviews were positive, it currently holds 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, again, that's an aggregate, but, they certified it fresh, take that with what it's worth. But then people were still like, well, like, that movie's bad. But, like, you haven't seen it, so you can't really say a movie is bad until you can actually sit in the theater or however you choose to watch your movies and go, okay, I watched it, I gave it a chance, and now I can make a better formed opinion than just what you read and think pieces online are based off a couple of trailers and TV spots. So from my point of view, it's more like at least give it a chance before you say it's a complete child-ruining dumpster fire. And y'all's movies didn't really have that issue. Like, nobody was like, The Nice Guys, like, that's ruined the 70s for me. Or Swiss Army Man, Harry Potter, my DVDs disappeared. Where my movie, it's just like has all this hate against it. And you know, not everybody's going to like the movie. I mean, comedy is very subjective. What I might like, maybe not what you guys like. But at least give it a chance. That way you can have a better informed opinion before you go and say it ruined your childhood and your DVDs got stolen after you left the theater.
All right, guys, fight.
I'll just say on Ghostbusters, I'm all for girl power, but I think people made their decision about that movie. The people that were going to see it saw it. The people that didn't want to see it aren't going to see it. And the hate that surrounded it ended up just being a lot of noise at the end of it, because nobody saw that movie that didn't automatically assume from whatever trailer or even the fact that it was announced went to go see it unless they went to go hate watch it. So I think when you're looking at a movie that you need to go see, it should be because A, it's worthy of being seen, and 2, maybe you missed it and this is something that you need to bring your attention to, which I think The Nice Guys has that. But the one thing I will say different between The Nice Guys and Swiss Army Man, The Nice Guys has 2 of the biggest stars in Hollywood right now and a huge marketing campaign. It was not a small movie. And with a pretty named director, and people still didn't go see it. So it says to me that people made their decision about it based off of the right information. It's like they didn't know about it. Whereas with Swiss Army Man, a lot of people didn't see it because 1, it was limited, and 2, they didn't really know about it, and what they knew about it wasn't really enough to really encapsulate the film. The Nice Guys, in their trailers and marketing, showed it for what it was, and it was good. It was awesome. I love Shane Black, but I feel like, you know, it's not something you're going to want to see 5 years later. It's
well, the difference between The Nice Guys, Ghostbusters, and Swiss Army Man is The Nice Guys is still incredibly well reviewed. Ghostbusters is still pretty well reviewed. Swiss Army Man was very divisive. People were storming out of screenings at Sundance. People said that they threw up watching that movie. People were like, I can't stand this movie. This is disgusting and despicable. And then there were the people who were like, wait, I think this is really funny. So it
has the same score. But it has the same score as Ghostbusters, which was reviewed well. 73% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, but a lot of the people who go to Sundance don't necessarily, like, I'm not on Rotten Tomatoes, but I know a lot of people who walked out of the screenings at Sundance and they were like, this is gross, I'm not going to sit through it. So here's the difference. I think that with Swiss Army Man, what you have is independent cinema that is trying to push the tone so far that it gets people talking simply because it is offensive or it is super gross or it is super over the top. It's Harry Potter's farting corpse. That's what everybody knows that movie as. No one's going to remember it was called Swiss Army Man. And Paul Dano is not somebody who can open a movie. The thing about The Nice Guys that makes it something that people should see is it is an homage to cinema in many, many different ways. So if you are a film lover, it's something you should see. It is the best performances by 2 of the best actors we have working today, and a lot of people ignored it. And it wasn't because people didn't know about it. It was because things without IP, i.e. Ghostbusters, are largely ignored. That was the problem. And the other thing is when you have... Go ahead.
I think the reason why they have 2 of the biggest stars. This is Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. This is not like B-movie people, and it barely cleared its budget, and there's a reason for that. It's the same thing. We did this before with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and the same thing happened. I don't see why they thought it was going to be different.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was found on DVD, became a cult hit, then had word of mouth, and I think the same thing's going to happen with The Nice Guys, and that's why The Nice Guys languished in development for 12 years trying to get made, and at a certain point they were like, we're going to make a TV show out of this. They didn't. They made the film in the hopes that the film would be successful enough that the TV show would happen, which I'm bummed about, because how awesome would it be to see that same character structure in like the later 70s or in the early 80s. That's a show I would watch.
It's a great character structure, but we've seen it in Lethal Weapon and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and all of the Shane Black movies where he has these buddy cop little interactions. It's what he's known for, right? Is the interaction. You got one character that's very different from the other. You put him in a weird situation and adventures happen. That's great, but that's the same formula.
That's Swiss Army Man.
Oh, what? No. In a weird situation,
when you watch what happens, only you have less enjoyment because it's gross.
Listen, and also, you just said it was pushing the envelope.
And Ryan Gosling.
Of course you can't. Look. Which is the one you want to see? It's not just the Harry Potter Farting Corpse movie. Listen, the reason why it's different. The reason why it's different is because that was the tagline, the Farting Corpse movie. But there's a lot more to that movie. If you actually see it, it's an emotional movie that talks about love and death and loss and regret. There's a lot of things that you go through with Manny, and there's a lot more to it than just the Farting Corpse movie. It has a lot more heart, it's enjoyable, it's funny, and it is dark. And you're right, it was divisive at Sundance, but But Sundance is not the measure of what is always a great film. There are plenty of films that have gone to Sundance and not been well received that ended up being well known. I'm not saying it doesn't always, but it's not the end all be all is my point.
Exactly. Sundance has a terrible groupthink. There are terrible movies that come out of there and people are like, this was great, because you see 8 movies in a day. Right. If you see 8 movies in a day, at a certain point, you need one of them to stand out, whether it's good or bad, and people will start talking about it. And that's what Swiss Army Man felt like to me. It was a way to get people talking, a way to get a name for yourself. But it was Janet Jackson ripping her titty out at the Super Bowl, as
No, it
opposed
wasn't
to
just shock.
Prince singing Purple Rain in the rain, because that's artistry. That's the difference. You're Janet Jackson's titty, and I'm Prince in the rain.
Really? Because I would rather be Janet Jackson's titty any day. But let me just tell you, in general, that's more of a personal thing. That's more of a personal thing. Listen.
And we just became a PG-13 podcast.
You invited me on. What did you
I knew what I was getting into. Don't worry.
Value. It's not just shock value. That's the problem. Everyone thought it was just shock value. They didn't go see the dang film. If you see the movie, you will see that it is funny, it is different, but it's not just the farting corpse movie. There's more to it.
All right.
But different isn't always better.
I want to get to final thoughts here in a minute, but first, I really do want to hear a little bit more about Ghostbusters from Ashley. Give me more of a sense of why this is the pick for you and why this should be the movie that we saw.
All right, so like I said earlier, with the whole nobody giving it a chance, and a lot of people that like they already made up their mind aren't going to go see it or hate watch it or whatever, but I would imagine there's also a lot of people that are easily swayed by the loudest voices on the internet going, well, the internet said it was bad, so I'm not going to go see that. And again, you really do need to give movies a chance because you might end up liking it. I watched the movie. I love the original Ghostbusters, but I think I liked this one, just as much as the original because I felt that they handled a lot of the storytelling. They developed the characters in a way that they didn't really do that in the first movie because when the original movie starts, like they're already pretty much a cohesive unit, and then they bring Winston's character on later, and they don't really give him anything to do because they couldn't get Eddie Murphy to be in the movie, whereas in this film, all the characters have plenty to do, and Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon really steal the show with the subtle background comedy, and then all of Jones's quips and her character being very knowledgeable about the city of New York. She kind of serves as like our audience surrogate so that we can kind of understand some of the wacky science that goes on. And it felt more like a story of friendship than in the original. And it's not like a total carbon copy, like frame by frame, like Psycho or some other remakes. They kind of take their own little 2016 spin on it. They do acknowledge the, the YouTube comments and all of that kind of debunking. And like they have to work a lot harder in this movie, I think, than the guys did in their movie. And I think, give it a chance. You might like it. And, if so,
but it's not a movie you need to see. That's my whole point. Like, we didn't need this movie, first of all, in my opinion, to be made, and you don't need to see it this year. That's the one thing I'll say about Ghostbusters. I agree with you. I like it. Yay, girl power. I'm sad that the internet decided to destroy it, but you don't need to see that movie. And
but the industry needs a movie like this. Little girls need to be able to believe that they can be scientists and other things, and your movies don't have that for that audience. Your movies are about like white guys.
Not true. The daughter in The Nice Guys steals the whole thing. The daughter in The Nice Guys is the biggest hero possibly of the movie.
Listen, I will give you that Swiss Army Man is whiter than Christmas, but that does not mean that it's a bad movie and that you shouldn't go see it. This is the thing I will say. You should go see Swiss Army Man for all the reasons Sasha said that you didn't go see it. Everyone thought that about it. And then the people that actually saw the movie, for the most part, I would say outside of that initial reaction, enjoyed it. It was very well liked by audiences. It was very well liked by audiences. The other thing I will say, too, is with The Nice Guys, as much as I like that movie, it is an original property in the sense of it's a new story, but I do feel like it's recycling a same very, generic formula of the buddy cop comedy adventure thing. And that's cool and all, but there is something to be said for, I'm going to go see this very edgy, pushing the boundary, independent film that even if you didn't like it, it's conversational. You're going to be talking about it later. You're going to be discussing the fact that this is something that you're gonna, discuss. And that's what movies are supposed to do. They're supposed to invoke emotions in us. They're not just supposed to be something where we sit back and don't feel anything.
Sasha, why should I see your movie over the other two? Why is yours the one I need to see?
The Nice Guys is the best franchise that we're never going to get to watch, and that's tragic. The truth is this would have kickstarted something that I would have watched for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, which is what Ghostbusters is. It was original, it was forward-thinking, which is what Swiss Army Man is, but it doesn't have the gross-out humor. It doesn't rely on cheap tricks or a Harry Potter fan base in order to get people into the seats. It never makes you feel like you're dumber than it is. It makes you feel like you're along on this great, super fun, dark, comic ride, which is a lot of what Swiss Army Man does, but Swiss Army Man pushes it too far into a place where you start feeling uncomfortable. What The Nice Guys does is it makes you want to revisit some awesome movies, going from Boogie Nights, like I said, all the way back to like 40s hard-boiled detective stories. But it also reminds us of how great independent and forward-thinking, even if it's within a studio construct, films can be now. Shane Black is hilarious. I think that The Nice Guys will be Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I think in 15 years of all these movies, the only one we're still going to be talking about is The Nice Guys, and people are going to be like, oh man, why didn't I see that when it came out? And the answer is going to be, I don't know, but you should have.
Now, Swiss Army Man is going to be this year's Harold and Maude, and people will appreciate it for that. Weird.
No way.
Ashley,
call me in 5 years. No one will remember it.
Ashley, why should I see Ghostbusters this season?
All right, well, if you have to pick things that are easily accessible, Ghostbusters is on more screens currently than these other two. Swiss Army Man is currently only on 81 screens, and The Nice Guys is currently on 76 screens. So it's a little, if we're just going for the now pick, it's going to be the equity of access. Everybody can still go see this. And obviously, not a lot of people have, because currently, as of yesterday, it's only sitting at 99 million at the box office with a budget of 144 million. It didn't get released in China, so there goes that market. But again, you need to give it a chance. Maybe you'll end up liking a movie that you thought would not be as great. I've had plenty of friends that were like, I didn't really want to go see that movie, but we kind of took them with us, and they're like, oh, I actually really enjoyed it. So it might change your mind if you're on the fence versus these other two, which again are going to be a little harder to see. And that's all I got.
All right, wonderful. Oh my gosh.
I want to get a fact check on this Swiss Army Man tagline, because I want a fact check on that.
Fact check on what? What did I
The
say?
Swiss Army Man tagline. You said the tagline was it's the Harry Potter ferreting corpse.
Oh, no.
I don't think it is.
No. That's just what people said. That's not the tagline. I'm sorry. That's not official.
The unofficial.
The
Oh my
unofficial.
The unofficial. Got it. Okay.
Tom and Kimber, save me, please. give me something.
We'll try. All right. Well, to be honest, a lot of the fact checking was done during Sasha and Jacqueline's, and they pretty much fixed each other's statements, so that's fine. Ashley, I don't know if this was a slip of a tongue, but Ernie Hudson played Winston, not Eddie Murphy.
No, he was originally supposed to play it.
I was saying he's supposed to be him. They couldn't get him, so that's why they diminished his role.
Oh, they were going to replace his character? I didn't even hear that. I apologize.
Yeah, they wanted Eddie Murphy. They couldn't get him, so they wrote it down.
The trailer is no longer the most disliked. It has been replaced by Baby.
Really?
The Bieber song, I don't know. And with all the Shane Black talk, I'm surprised we didn't hear about my favorite Shane Black movie, Last Action Hero. You also brought up the Rotten Tomatoes score, Ashley, saying that you were tied with Swiss Army Man.
I said it was 73% certified fresh.
Oh, okay. Well, Swiss Army Man 65%, Ghostbusters 73%, and Sasha 91%. I usually don't throw those in, but if someone brings it up.
No, you're right. I had that wrong.
Okay, so
yeah, what did Twitter say?
Just agreeing with you guys on a lot of stuff. They seem to agree that Ghostbusters was unfairly hated, and that it also is important for feminism. They are praising the originality of both Swiss Army Man and Nice Guys, and saying that indie films are underappreciated, and unfortunately it's the big budgets that bring in the box office, and more people should go see indie films. They also threw in some love for The Lobster.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of my choices too. That was one of mine too.
and a lot of people were surprised to not see Civil War on there, as well as
Everybody's
Because
already
everybody
seen
saw
that
it.
movie.
I saw that
everybody and
movie.
their dog.
Yeah, I'll show you my
And
ticket.
their dog, literally.
All my cats saw it already. I paid for a ticket for each of them. The theater got mad, but you know.
Swayze loved it.
You take your cats to movies.
Duh.
And they don't they're talking about Swayze, by the way. Swayze is still in the loop.
By the way, can we just all say that I want to see remakes of every Patrick Swayze movie starring your cat, Swayze, because I think that would be amazing. I just want to throw that out.
By the way, I feel like we should really go visit the artwork since we're here.
Oh, yeah.
This
Oh
is
my
a
God.
wait. I'm like, oh God, it's so hard to do. There, that is a yarn portrait of my cat Swayze and Patrick Swayze because
Wow.
it is the only piece of artwork I've ever commissioned.
Oh, my
Wow.
God. That's awesome.
Nice.
I would be sneezing if I was in that house, but those are awesome. I'm so allergic to cats. If you don't want me to judge an episode of the show, just bring cats into my house, and that will get to that. Listen, if you watch this at home and you think judging is easy, you are absolutely wrong, because this is a really difficult round. Wow. Ashley, I'm glad I went back to you for more detail on Ghostbusters, because I went from, oh, it's not going to be Ashley, to, oh, it might be Ashley. Wow, good points made by everyone here. Jacqueline, when you mentioned, how Swiss Army Man had a limited release, which limited us from being able to see it, I thought that was a good point, but I think it's also kind of a negative against your movie in the sense that had it been a better movie, it might have gotten a bigger release, and I think when Sasha pointed out that it really needed Harry Potter fans to get in there in the first place, I think that kind of put Swiss Army Man as the third place finisher for me in this fight. So for me, it was between Sasha and Ashley. I think that Ghostbusters is an important role model for girls, and I think that photograph of Kristen Wiig saying hi to little girls and that one little girl, just the look of wonder on her face, I think that's a really important thing. I have 2 daughters. It's certainly something I'm mindful. The biggest concern I had, though, with the argument was that I'm going to see this movie because I need to weigh in on the debate and not necessarily because it's a really great movie. I think that was kind of the thing that started pulling me away. Sasha, your movie was well received. It has fantastic performances. You mentioned, too, that it has this franchise-worthy theme about it that's probably we're never going to see. And it's great performances by people. We weren't sure we'd get a good performance out of that duo, but we do. Ultimately, it was really close, actually, at the end. But I think, Sasha, I'm going to have to pick the nice guys and give you the points. So
Let's make
congratulations.
another one, except it'll never happen because nobody saw
really
it.
Well, what were the poll results for this round?
The poll results are pretty much mirroring what you said. We got the nice guys at 56%. And Ghostbusters at 33, followed by Swiss Army Man at 11. But I do have to say, Jacqueline, I want to see Swiss Army Man. I haven't seen any of these, and that would have been my choice personally.
It's super interesting. It was a hard one to fight against.
Yeah. Nice Guys was my second choice, and I only switched it out because of how much I liked this movie. So I would have argued that the Black Girl in Nice Guys is like my role model. I like the
Oh my God.
And
So
let it be said that, of course, all 3 of these movies are fantastic. We weren't determining that one was crappy. It's just that which one do I have to see?
Yeah, it's hard, especially I would have gone and saw both of those movies in the theater, literally when I got home Friday, but they're no longer playing in my area. I was like, crap, what am I gonna do?
I feel lucky I live in Austin and we have the Alamo headquarters because we get a ton of stuff that little Austin I don't feel would get otherwise. So I'm lucky. I know.
So we stand right now. Oh, sorry.
We don't get to the movies often, so we went, and it was like a toss-up between Nice Guys and then another movie, and we went and saw the other movie, and it was Neighbors 2, and I was so angry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. You were one of the reasons it was on Summer Movie Report for an extra week.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, so let's move on to round 3. Interesting enough, I called this the Who You Gonna Call round, because we're going to talk about Paul Feig's Ghostbusters. The remake has hit theaters with a mostly positive review for its all-female cast. So I would like to know, what is the best comedy film starring a female lead? And for this round, we are going to start with Sasha.
All right, so I had a really hard time with this because there's a lot of movies that I love and there were a lot of options, but I decided to go with When Harry Met Sally because I feel like what Meg Ryan did in that film, it wasn't the manic pixie that we've come to expect from so many of like the Woody Allen films or Mia Farrow or like the Goldie Hawn Ovra from Butterfield 8 or anything else. It was this woman who was an adult, who had a job, who had a mission, who had her own life, who happened to fall in love, which is not usual in a rom-com, and she was hysterical. Meg Ryan in the Nora Ephron films is some of the best female comedy ever because you also have Nora Ephron's writing. Nora Ephron, who, I mean, R.I.P., God, I love you. Thank you for doing what you did when you were on this earth. It is a hilarious movie. It is one of the classics, and there is something about that particular performance where I felt like it never strove to be specifically a comedy. It wasn't trying to go for laughs. It wasn't trying to go for jocular humor. It was totally fine to sit in the pocket, be very female, but also be very funny without ever trying to make a statement about anything. It was just a great, legendary character that is hysterical and one that will live on forever.
Awesome. Ashley, what did you pick?
All right, I went with another Feig movie, Bridesmaids from 2011, which really kind of revitalized the female-led comedy film. Not only revitalized it, but also told people that it doesn't have to be your typical rom-com formula. It can be just as raunchy as things like The Hangover and those kind of films. It was actually, interestingly enough, nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Best Original Screenplay, and then also Melissa McCarthy was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which usually comedies don't get that distinction. The story itself is very relatable. Like, who hasn't, had a friend that was your best friend that got a new friend, and, now you're trying to figure out, now that we're growing up and we're getting older, how is my relationship with this person changed now that they're going through something in their life that I'm not experiencing, and it's about these the female friendship and all of these other things and how it can push and pull, and just a very relatable film, even if you've never been a bridesmaid or been in a wedding or any of those kind of
always
things.
A bride.
Yeah, so it's still relatable on the other levels, especially with the awkwardness, and I'll get into some more later.
Awesome, thank you. Jacqueline, what'd you pick?
Okay, so the movie that I picked is actually an older movie, but it still holds up and it's amazingly funny, and that is 9 to 5, featuring Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton, and Jane Fonda. 3 class acts all in their own right in one film coming together, making this absolutely hilarious movie. The reason why I picked this one is it still applies today. Any of us that go to a job can appreciate the comedy and the humor that's in 9 to 5 and some of the struggles as women in the workplace that we have to sometimes battle. I really love that not only was it a film where you have these 3 co-leads and they all have their own individual stories, they all shine in what they bring to the table, and they all become empowered throughout the movie, and by the end of it, they're all better women for it. And the best thing I loved about this film is it all happens without it being based off of their relationships with men, in the sense that this is not about how they're related to, a significant other or something like that. They're really just trying to climb the corporate ladder. Now, they're doing it behind this boss who is, an egotistical bigot, but they're doing it because they want to achieve something. That is a big part of why this movie is still great, and it's a big part of why I think it's more of an example for women to kind of watch. And, a movie that's, 40, 50 years old, 40 years old, is still something that you can watch today and find relatable, which I don't think you'd be able to say with every single, comedy out there.
All right, guys, fight.
All right.
Okay, number 1, what I meant to say actually was butterflies are free, or cactus flower, because that's the manic pixie. Ashley, please go ahead.
All right, so Jacqueline, you mentioned that 9 to 5 holds up and it should be, as an example. Well, I hope that nobody follows the example of when you poison your boss, you kidnap a corpse you think is your boss and try to cover it up, because that's not going to lead to a road of success.
Really, because diarrhea inside a sink is a real great way to go.
Hey,
I'm just saying. And, getting drugged out on a plane and getting grounded.
They're not rewarded for their bad behavior, though, where these girls basically get away with everything. In fact, the only reason they end up getting away with everything is because the big boss from, the corporate, corporate headquarters comes in, thinks that their boss is the one that's implemented all these great changes in the movie, and then he just ends up taking credit for it. And so there's no consequence for their, kidnapping him or anything like that. So
this is the deal. If you're talking about a movie where, hey, you have consequences, you're right. It's not setting the best example. But we're talking about these 3 female leads, and I think they all have a great moment to shine. It is comedy. When we're talking about comedy, there's going to be parts that are going to be slapstick, broad, whatever. There's tons of moments like that inside Bridesmaids. So if we wanted to dissect each individual moment in Bridesmaids, from it being Melissa McCarthy sexually harassing men on a plane,
I love that scene.
Kristen Wiig allowing her boyfriend to basically use her as, a living sex doll. I mean, there's so many poor examples for girls and women in that. What I'm talking about in the grand scheme of things is, despite some of its flaws, you get to see these 3 women in a, for the most part, positive light. We talk about Dolly Parton standing up for herself in the face of sexual harassment. You have Jane Fonda, a recent divorcee who managed to find her voice in her first job outside of being a housewife. And you have Lily Tomlin, this single mother who has been completely passed over through promotion. All the times that she could have gotten promoted, she didn't. So I would say to you, yes, it's not an example of how to conduct yourself in the workplace, but it is an example of how 3 women can come together and achieve something great and empower the other women that are around them, because let's not forget, they improve the lives of all of their coworkers, from the drunk to the woman that had to quit because she was a single mom. There were so many people within that whole office that had a better life existence and a better work-life balance because of the changes that they made. And Frank Hart had it coming.
But here's the thing. But hold on, both of you guys. The thing is we're not arguing which is the better female role model, because if we're talking about the better female role models, we're all completely off base here. Yeah. Although I think mine would be closer. But the question is who is the best female lead in a comedy? Not even a female-centric comedy. The reason that I chose When Harry Met Sally is because I think that Nora Ephron's writing was so personal and spoke so universally as a woman, and also she wrote a female character that will live on and stand the test of time forever, because we can all understand we might not be that exact character, but we get the comedy in a way that is so insanely relatable and is also smart, funny, original. Hadn't been done like that before. I don't need Woody Allen writing women's roles for the rest of my life, because he's not a woman and he doesn't really understand women. I needed Nora Ephron's voice to come out of Meg Ryan's mouth. I needed that. And also, as a comedy, as a film, When Harry Met Sally is funnier by far than 9 to 5. It's not even close. Bridesmaids uses a lot of gross out humor, and that's because Judd Apatow was involved. Like, the shit scene was Judd Apatow's insistence. What you have with When Harry Met Sally is a comedy that is humane, it is smart, it is so brilliantly constructed. Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron made some of the best comedies we will ever see, romantic or otherwise. I mean, I'm going Spinal Tap all the way to Sleepless in Seattle and beyond. But that's why I think that her character is the best lead in a comedy, because who can't relate to Meg Ryan? Who can't laugh with Meg Ryan?
I will say this is the thing. I didn't find Meg Ryan as relatable. I like Harry Met Sally, but I did feel the film was very much centered around this woman's need to find a man, and that was all it was based off of. All of her memorable moments were about, Joe left me here, does Harry like me now? And it was just, I didn't like that. I'm not a big fan of this, will they, won't they romantic comedy where that's where it centers around it. Their friendship was something that she valued, and then as soon as things change, it completely throws her world off, and she doesn't know how to exist without it. I don't like that about her character.
But that's not about feminism. That's not about the movie. Like, why is she not a good lead? Why is she not interesting? Why is she not funny? She's hilarious, and her interaction with Billy Crystal is a comedic genius. There are certain people that you just cannot go toe-to-toe with.
But how much of her comedy was because Billy Crystal was next to her, as opposed to these 3 women?
No, it was because she brought the shit shit. And please, Dolly Parton, if you want to bring up Dolly Parton, you got to go steal Magnolias. If you want to bring up Lily Tomlin in Grandma, Lily Tomlin in Laughing, Lily Tomlin in damn near everything. But 9 to 5 is not her best thing. Her best thing is big business. You could have gone big business, girl, because Lily Tomlin businesses. That's what's up. Listen. And fucking Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda
for the three of them together.
Fonda's not funny.
Oh my God! You cannot. Have you seen the scene where she makes the copies and they all start coming out on her? That is some of the best physical comedy you will. Oh my God! I don't get to do that.
No.
I will not do that.
Listen,
because you didn't talk during that, Sasha, we could only see it in the little tiny window.
Yeah.
But boy, that was fantastic. Anyway.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say, listen. I agree that Harry Met Sally is a great comedy, but I don't feel at the end of that I was like, oh, this is a great romantic comedy between Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, and I feel the two of them together is what made it great. But it's still a male-female interaction thing. We're talking about 9 to 5. It is hilarious. The scenes where they play out the fantasies of killing their bosses. We're not saying what is the funniest one. I think those three leads together, each one of them did other things that they did and they did well, but the three of them coming together in that movie and making it the second highest grossing film of that year, I might add, behind Empire Strikes Back, is significant. That was a big deal back then, and it's still a big deal today because, again, this is not something we see all the time. Most of the time when you have a strong female lead, there's always going to be some guy or some part of the relationship that you base it off of. And not making this a big feminist argument, I'm just saying it's nice occasionally to have these funny interactive moments where it is about how these women relate to each other and making themselves better and being really funny when they does it. If you don't laugh when Dolly Parton says that she's going to turn him from a rooster to the hen with one shot, I'm sorry. You're missing out on the hilariousness.
The fact that you can quote that, though, is amazing because I cannot quote a single thing outside of Dolly Parton's nails singing the actual song. I love the song 9 to 5. The movie 9 to 5 for me is pretty forgettable. When Harry Met Sally is, I mean, come on, are you kidding me? Who else has ever faked an orgasm like that on screen in that way and had it be funny, not weird, not sexual, but just like hilarious and amazing and just nobody else has ever done anything like that.
I would say both of your movies have really funny scenes that make them really great movies. Your orgasm scene, her diarrhea scene, you're right. They have these big, huge, broad comedy moments. But it is about the characters and the leads.
Right, the characters. Every single time I adjust an order at a restaurant, I feel like I'm Meg Ryan in that movie. Every time I'm like, oh, can I get that? But can I get that on the side? Because it's memorable. At what point do you remember 9 to 5? And as far as Bridesmaids goes, Bridesmaids...
Just because you don't remember doesn't mean it's not good. I mean, there's plenty of movies that get forgotten.
Go ahead. But finish your thoughts, Sasha.
As far as Bridesmaids goes, I feel like both Bridesmaids and 9 to 5... Bridesmaids is great broad comedy. 9 to 5 is great comedy, but it's just not that memorable. I feel like in all of those, you're still not talking about a female lead. Like, name me one character from that movie that you really, really resonate with, remember, and feel like changed the way we look at female leads. Name me one of them.
Just one. But you're saying because they're co-leads, they're less important?
Right. So let me give Ashley a chance to kind of respond to that. So if there's a character, Ashley, based on what Sasha said, what is that character for you?
All right, the character that I thought was the most relatable is the true star of the movie, which was Annie, who is played by Kristen Wiig. She is the one who is designated as the maid of honor and is in competition with Rose Byrne's character, Helen, who is definitely more affluent and has better access to, like, fancy things, where Kristen Wiig's character is going through hard financial times. You know, she lives with these two roommates who are despicable people. You know, her car, it looks like it's, you know, from like 20 years ago, a barely run. She has 2 headlights out. You know, her, you know, like, she's lost her business. You know, she's, you know, in a awful relationship that, you know, is very abusive because, like, she's basically, as was said earlier, she's just like a sex doll for, you know, John Hamm's character. And, you know, seeing her friend, like, go through all these happy things with the, you know, the planning of the wedding and all of that, like, you know, like, she should be happy for her friend, but she can't be because it's like, Lillian's life seems to keep getting better and better. It seems like her life keeps getting worse and worse, and to the apex where, you know, like at the shower, which Helen stole the idea from for the Parisian theme, like, she flips out and makes a total jerk of herself and ends up, you know, like, getting out of the wedding party. And just, like there's so many little awkward moments that I think hold up a lot better than, and narratively, than in When Harry Met Sally, and then with 9 to 5. When Harry Met Sally has all those weird interruptions with the couples that are played by actors to serve as act breaks, but I don't think that serves the narrative structure very well. And then when 9 to 5, I think they do have a good chemistry, but after they have their little moment of fantasy of what they're going to do to their boss, the whole plot of that movie just like jumps off the rails. And just, even for, comedy, and it's just too bizarre for like what that movie was establishing at the beginning. And some critics online, like Dylan Liebarger from Nitrate, like he says that the same thing, that it started off great, but like after the revenge piece, it just kind of loses it. So I think Bridesmaids is heartfelt. It does have that gross out humor, which I think is, not everybody likes that, but it just shows you that female comedy doesn't have to all be like one thing. It can be different genres to appeal to the different tastes of the women that, watch films.
I'm really sad that you didn't say Melissa McCarthy, though, Ashley, because I feel like everything you just said about Kristen Wiig's character kind of makes her sound like a sad sack. And that was how she was in the film. She wasn't that funny. She wasn't the comedic centerpiece. Melissa McCarthy showing up with like 8 puppies and being like, I think I overextended myself, or whatever it is that she says in that moment, that is hilarious. Her on the plane with the air marshal played by her husband is a great moment. But when I think about the comedy in that movie, I don't think of Kristen Wiig. I think of Melissa McCarthy. When I think about the comedy in 9 to 5, I don't think of any of them. I think of Lily Tomlin in Big Business, or I think of Dolly Parton in Steel Magnolias. When I think of Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally, I think of the characters that would not exist without her. Like, we wouldn't have the Jerry Maguire "you had me at hello" moment if we didn't have Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally. We wouldn't have Emma Stone in Easy A as this strong individual woman, whether or not she's looking for a man or not, if we didn't have Sally and When Harry Met Sally. There are so many characters that shifted because of what that movie did. And there's also so many things, not just in film, but in television. Like, I feel like the sitcom genre entirely changed. Like, How I Met Your Mother is basically When Harry Met Sally, but as a sitcom and with more characters wrapped around it. That, to me, really is what pushed this thing forward. And I feel like she as a character, whether you liked her or not, is what's so interesting, because she was willing to be unlikable. She was willing to be vulnerable. She was willing to go as so far as to fake an orgasm in front of Rob Reiner's mother. Like, there's so many things that I feel like that character did that changed a female lead in a film forever, and not just in film, also in TV.
Okay. So I'm going to take that as hang on one second. I'm going to take that as your final thought. Ashley, real quick, give me your final thought, and then Jacqueline, I'll give you a chance to say yours.
All right. Again, comedy is very subjective. I personally found the awkwardness of Kristen Wiig to be the funnier things, because it was what I could relate to as a very awkward adult that doesn't have quite the same struggles, but I've dealt with friends, getting married, getting new friends, and I could relate to that more than I'm going to hit on the air marshal, why didn't she get arrested, take 9 puppies from the shower. I think this film is important to cinema as well, even though it's kind of a gross out comedy, but it proved that you can have female led movies that don't have to just be the typical romantic comedy.
Which started with 9 to 5. Sorry.
But I think most people have probably forgotten about 9 to 5. Like Bridesmaids. Like, it debuted at number 2 at the box office, but it stayed in the top 5 for 5 weeks. I think that just goes to show you that, like the trailer, it wasn't that great, but people heard about like how funny this movie, and so like the box office didn't have that diminish where you see like a 50% drop in week 2, and it just keeps going down. Like, it held its position pretty strong over some tough competition, and in fact, it was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. Beating out Sex and the City, which had come out in 2008. So again, important to show that it could make some changes in our industry that we're seeing in other movies today.
All right, Jacqueline, what are your final thoughts?
I will go ahead and say there's no doubting that Harry Met Sally and Meg Ryan's performance in that film is great. But I will just go ahead and say the thing that you guys are trying to knock me on is I think the thing that that makes it great. I think each one of my characters I could name right now to say which one is the best. I could say Dolly Parton with her sassy Texas, let me go rope my boss. I could say Lily Tomlin for her, you know, the single mother. Each one of them has their own awesome and great comedic moments. I don't feel the film falls apart towards the end because we get that third act sort of final justification. We get the happy ending for all of these ones, even through the end credit scenes where they talk about where each one of them go, and we get a few more laughs through that. I feel like Bridesmaids is just, in a lot of ways, the children of 9 to 5, because this, again, was a big deal back when it was, I think, maybe 1978. I've got to remember that wrong, probably. But it came out the same year as Empire Strikes Back, I think. 1980. There you go, 1980. And it still managed to get people to go see it in a year where everybody was talking about Star Wars. I do think that is significant. And just because it doesn't have those, you know, big, raunchy, I would say more, you know, big laugh type moments, it doesn't mean that it's not funny. It doesn't mean that it's not relatable. And I do think that how these women and what they do for each other says something. And I do think it's important not only for it to be a female lead, but it to be a female lead that we like. These are likable women. We like these characters, and we want to see them do well. And I think that's because of the performances that all three of these women had. And that's it.
Wow, what a round. This is insane. I don't know how I'm going to pick this one. Tom and Kimber, give me some facts, please. That changed my mind.
A lot of it opinions and correct facts, so I have nothing to check, but I did have some help from Twitter. Bill at Coupe de Bill says Wig's brake lights were out, not her headlights at.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's it. Ashley loses.
But otherwise, pretty clean.
Yeah, I have some great suggestions from people. None of you guys chose my choice, which would have been Death Becomes Her, a person.
Yes.
Other people cited Easy A, Clueless, Mean Girls, and Spy for their choices. And then
Spy's
a
pretty
lot
good.
of it just like personal love. Langley tweets that Sasha is his new favorite comedic lead. And,
Thank you, Langley.
and at Drake Masters, just pointing out that this has been a really good round and that all of you guys are doing awesome. A lot of people are really enjoying it.
He also pointed out that this is the second time Fanfiction has brought up Steel Magnolias.
Yes,
unfortunately, it is.
Yeah,
What do you mean, unfortunately, Jack?
Steel Magnolias is amazing. If you don't cry when Shelby dies, you have lost your soul.
I'm going to armadillo cake so I can have a nice piece of ass.
I have it on good authority that Steel Magnolias is Drake Masters' favorite movie because he's sitting in the room with me. I know him.
Yes, you don't know that's Joe Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows him a little bit.
A lot of
Oh, guys, this one is so tough. This is so tough. I've crossed out, rewritten, crossed out. Okay, so let's, of course, just say that these are three great movies. So two of you are not going to be able to win this round. We're not saying they're not good movies. I heard a lot of different things in this round that like raised people up, pulled them back down. One of the things I heard, Jacqueline, about 9 to 5. Two things I heard about 9 to 5. One is that you said it's not about being funny, that movie. Except that the whole category's purpose is to determine comedy.
Just being funny.
And the other thing that really hit me was, and I felt the same way, so this resonated, was when Sasha said, "I remember the song, but not necessarily anything that happened in the movie." And I kind of feel the same way. I think that is an enduring song, but it's not a memorable movie. And so for me, it was more leaning between Sasha and Ashley. And we have two very good movies with female leads here. You know, we've seen the Bridesmaid formula before, but you know, Sasha, you had said too, yours is a movie about a character. It's not necessarily about the film as a whole. You know, it's about this really strong, well-written character, but she is so funny throughout, and it set the stage for so many movies. Easy A. I just had, at the end of the day, when I looked at it, I was waiting for you to mention the orgasm. You mentioned the orgasm. The significance of that moment in that film and how important that was for a female actor to put herself out there in the way that she did to do that scene. I think that really was the thing that punctuated for me, because that movie is funny. They're both good movies, but we've seen Bridesmaids before. Harry with Sally set the stage. Sasha, you get the point.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Wow.
Very good.
That was
But now I gotta go listen to
difficult.
some Dolly Parton.
Oh, I love that movie, though. It's a great movie. I'm trying to find out what the poll says.
Oh, I know it's not gonna be. I picked my ones I love.
I think it's gonna be Bridesmaids. I think the poll's gonna say Bridesmaids.
Probably.
The
Yeah,
poll-
definitely not 9 to 5.
The poll was very decided, and it went 73% towards Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
9 to 5 and Harry Met Sally were equal at 13%.
Wow.
I'll take that.
Well, they're all good movies, and that was really, really difficult to decide. Well done, everybody.
Hey,
Oh my God! All right.
Joe just gave me a note that when Tom and Kimber are talking, they're not visible. I think their feet is frozen.
I can hear them.
That's more important. I'm not gonna.
Can you see?
Yeah,
Can't
it
see
just
them
went.
now.
It just went out for me as well. Tom and Kimber, if you guys want to reset your feeds during the next round, no big deal. But I can hear you. So as long as the host can hear, it'll come up through the feed, which is good. So let's go on to round 4. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has come under fire in recent years for its lack of diversity. Which performance by a non-white actor or actress deserved to be nominated in their respective category? For this round, we go back to the beginning, and Ashley, you are going to start us off.
All right. So normally this kind of film, you wouldn't think it would get nominated for Oscars because it is a comedy. But I actually picked Cleavon Little as Sheriff Bart from the classic Mel Brooks film Blazing Saddles. This was a movie that even in 1970s, it pushed a lot of boundaries with its use of language and basically just trying to call out the racism in America at that time, but putting it in a safer place by setting the movie in the Wild West versus making it a modern piece. Gene Wilder actually said of the film, like, they're smashing racism in the face, but they're doing it while you laugh, so it kind of makes some of the prejudices, you know, stand out more, like, oh, like, this is, like, we shouldn't be treating people like this when you see it in that comedic form, because the message is easier to handle. Cleavon Little as Sheriff Bart, I mean, his performance is phenomenal. There's so much heart and soul that he brings to this role. He's actually himself trained at Juilliard in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He was started off on Broadway, and Blazing Saddles was kind of like the apex of his film career. And I think that if he had been nominated for an Oscar for that role, then maybe that could have opened some more doors for him. Because if you look at his filmography after that, it is very lackluster. And he was he had such great comedic timing, and just the performance. He brought so much heart to just a simple role that it really transformed it, whereas I don't think the original actor they had in mind, Richard Pryor, would have been able to bring that heart and gravitas to just a simple little, you know, parody of Westerns. And one more fact before
bold statement.
I'll let you finish, but woo!
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, he was actually nominated from the British Academy, a BAFTA, for the most promising newcomer in a leading film role for the movie. And Madeline Kahn was nominated for Best Supporting Actress from this film, so it's not like the Academy totally snubbed it, but, like, why not him versus some of the other people that were nominated for Oscars that year? And if you need me to go into the detail of who was nominated, I can, because I did look that up.
All right. Let's see. Jacqueline, who'd you pick?
Okay, so for this one, it goes right back to the Oscar so white conversation, but last year's film that I felt the performance that got completely snubbed is Idris Elba's performance in Beasts of No Nation. I think not only was this film a film that had a lot of circumstances that led to its snubbing, even more than the diversity thing, it's something where if we look back on it later, this performance is going to be one that we remember as far as a defining moment in Idris Elba's career. So the reason why I picked Beast of No Nation as opposed to some of the other films is because there was a very significant reason why he didn't get nominated, and it was that it was the wrong movie in the sense that it had, you know, a completely unnamed cast, and the fact that Idris was the only name within it, and it was on the wrong studio in the sense that it was done by Netflix, and in the sense that, you know, this movie was something very different, and it was the wrong time, meaning the Academy has not embraced streaming services the way that you would think that they should, in my opinion. The fact that Idris didn't get nominated, I think, is more indicative of the fact that he was on Netflix than his performance, because the performance is absolutely stellar. He manages in this role to have a guy who is not only in some moments completely terrifying and lethal, but be completely charismatic in another. He manages to get these young, if you don't know, this is about child soldiers in Africa. He manages to get these boys to love, hate, and fear him all within just a few looks and a few words on screen. It is a completely powerful performance. It is moving. It is and sometimes terrifying, and it is definitely a film that you will remember later for this absolutely incredible performance by Idris Elba. And should have been nominated, but it wasn't.
Sasha.
So I actually have to throw back to the last question because now I'm like, damn, why didn't I go Madeline Kahn Clue? Flames on the side of my face, breathless, heaving breaths. So the film that I chose and the actor I chose was David Oyelowo in Selma. And I feel like you guys, it was, I think, what actually started the Oscar So White conversation even before Idris, because it was 2014, and what we're talking about here isn't just creating a performance. We were talking about a star-making turn in a way where David Oyelowo, who had smaller supporting parts in like Jack Reacher and a few other things, shows up in this movie and blows all of us away so profoundly, because not only was it unbelievable acting, but you have one of the single most iconic figures in not just American history, but in world history. I think there's maybe a dozen people that we could say would be as big as this. Like, this is on the Mahatma Gandhi scale. This is on the JFK scale. And David Oyelowo made this character a real human being. Not only did it look, feel, and sound like the man that we've all come to know from our history books and from videos, but it also was a tangible performance where we got all of these other sides of him, the possible womanizing side of him, the insecure side of him, the part of him that felt like this was bigger than even he was, when we see him as this mouth of a movement, the face of a movement, where it was so much larger. I mean, I'm talking about it and I'm getting the chills all over my entire body, because that to me was a history-making turn. The fact that he wasn't nominated, I think, started this whole snub. The fact that he was ignored by the Academy proves that the Oscars are beyond so white. They are so myopic. And I think that that is why David Oyelowo is the right choice for this answer.
Okay, I have to say this. Danny Aiello. Danny.
What?
His name is Danny. It's not David.
Yeah,
Danny.
Isn't it Danny
Danny.
Aiello?
It's Danny. Yeah, it's Danny.
No, it's David Oyelowo.
It's a different. You're thinking of Danny Aiello. She's doing David
Aiello.
David, are you thinking of the guy? Are you thinking of the guy from
Danny Aiello? Isn't that the guy who did a Predator?
Oh,
2?
I'm sorry. I said Danny. No, you're right. Sorry, my bad. I thought it was Danny for some reason.
No, I'm talking about this guy. David Oyelowo.
David Oyelowo. No, you're right. Sorry, I know who he is, but I thought his name was Danny. My bad. My bad.
There is a Danny Aiello, but not an Oyelowo.
So I'm like, you're thinking of the right thing, I think.
Yeah. No, sorry, no. You're right. Sorry, my bad.
No, that's an Italian dude.
Yes, I know who that is. I was like, oh, that name.
No, I'm talking about the British actor. I'm talking about the guy who was nominated for like every BAFTA, every Independent Spirit Award, every like the Golden Globe. Did he win the Golden Globe? I don't think he did. I should have done research on that.
Fortunately, we have.
But was not even nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. No. Okay. So. I'm sorry. Listen, that was a mistake on my part. Listen, what I was going to say is Selma was a great performance, and he did a great turn in it. The only problem I have with it is they saw it. The Academy saw his performance, because Selma was nominated in other categories. And if you want to talk about the biggest snub from Selma, it was actually Ava for the direction. I would say that was the biggest snub if we wanted to go ahead and say who they missed out on. I am not going to lie to you. I think that was a great performance by David. It was career-making, as you go ahead and said. But you also got to look at who they nominated that year. Who are you taking off that list? Because if you want to tell me what the next person that they should have nominated would have been Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. That was the one that, if I'm looking at the 6th best performance of that year, I'd say that Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be better than him as Martin Luther King. I'm not saying that they're the same kind of role. I'm saying if you want to talk about the more actorly role, the role where they transform themselves more into this completely insane character, I think that was the one where it got really ignored.
Well, regardless of Prisoners, because Prisoners was the precursor to Nightcrawler. It's a very similar performance. The difference is he lost more weight.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the whole thing, though. If you're just looking at, but who are you taking off from that year? Whose performance? Whereas with my year, I think you can definitely say of the supporting actors that they nominated for last year, I'm sorry, I can definitely say, I know people love, he ended up winning, but I just was not a big fan of Rylance, you know, I'm sorry, I know he ended up winning, but I think you can take people on the supporting actor category and say that Idris' performance was better, because it's not just who did they miss.
But here's the thing. If we're going to talk about who you should have looked over, then it's Cary Fukunaga. Because Cary Fukunaga going to True Detective, going to Sin Nombre is an unbelievable, incomparable talent. Idris Elba, look, he is my Bond. I love me some Idris Elba. I love me some Luther. I love me some The Wire. I love me some Idris. But that performance was underseen because my nickname for that movie was the Dead African Baby movie. Nobody could watch that movie because it was too frippin' it was too upsetting. That's why it needed a theatrical release as opposed to a Netflix release. But the thing with Selma is, Idris Elba didn't carry an entire movie. Idris Elba was a supporting actor. David Oyelowo carried an entire movie and made one of the most treasured figures, one of the most sacrosanct figures in our history. A real person, a person who had faults, a person who was living and breathing, a person who wasn't just a recreation. We've seen people do this before, and it can go so wrong. I will point to Katie Holmes as Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy. It can go bad, man. And when it goes right, it is hard to do. And what David Oyelowo did was it was beyond acting. It was beyond anything that we have seen in a
biopics are awesome, and he did a great version of biopic. I'm not going to deny to you, embodying an actual person the way that he did is very important. But I don't think you can honestly say that it was a snub in the sense of you got to look at it this way. Did the Academy voters see his performance? Did they judge it to be the best of that year? It had nothing to do with the lack of seeing it. I think it's very significant that it was on Netflix, that people didn't get to see it because it didn't have this big studio.
Wait, it doesn't make sense. Netflix is on. We literally could turn it on right now and it could be playing. That doesn't make any sense. That argument is ridiculous. Because you're saying people didn't see it. That means it's because they didn't want to see it. It was because
that's emotionally. It's not that they didn't want to see it.
They had access to it. They had access to it.
No, they had access to it. Doesn't mean they're going to go see it, and they're not going to assume that it's a great movie. Oscars is about kissing babies. You know this. You live in the industry. It is about the push that the studio puts forward to get people to vote for them. And I'm sorry,
they pushed hard for Netflix. No. They pushed hard. Netflix pushed hard. They had dinners for that thing. I was invited to parties for that thing. They pushed hard. Idris out. And he kissed hands.
No, listen.
They did not have enough money to put behind it, and it is an all-black cast with a female black director, and they were like, nope, no thank you.
But
so if you're going to talk about big snubs, it is on a bigger thing.
They still nominated it for Best Picture. It still got nominated for Best Picture.
But not for Best Director and not for David Oyelowo.
Okay, again, I'm going to agree with you that Ava got shafted. But
Beast of No Nation is just oh, God, make it stop. It's so hard. Okay. Selma is oh my God, it's so hard, but I'm still going to watch it.
I got
there's something. Hold on. Okay, hang on. So just to bring it down for just a second, there's a beautiful comedy. It was called Blazing Saddles. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Ashley, tell me a little bit.
What I would like to say before I get back to my movie, because just hearing these two ladies debate it out is very wonderful. So smart. The thing that with David Oyelowo and Selma, he embodies the look of Martin Luther King, but I think some of the speaking mannerisms he didn't quite nail for me. Plus, they didn't have the rights to the speeches, all of his iconic speeches, so they had to kind of do how can we switch this so it's, like in Spider-Man where it's with great power comes with great responsibility, but they couldn't say that in those other Spider-Man movies. It was kind of like that where it kind of loses some of that magic that he had as just a great preacher and orator. In my school, we teach I Have a Dream every year. I've heard him say that, for almost 9 years now. like it didn't capture that for me as someone that's used to listening to his voice. The embodiment, humanizing him, yes, but there was something just a little bit off. And then with Beast of No Nation, I understand that it's, you know, definitely something that wasn't quite on the Oscar radar, and his performance was for a Best Supporting Actor. And I don't think that's, you know, obviously anything wrong with that. They have that category for a reason. But for y'all's two people, they're in their 40s. Their careers have not been stalled by not being nominated. They have at least, each of them has about 4 films currently in production. They still have time to reach that dream. My guy died of like colon cancer, like at age 52, and he was basically left in obscurity almost because, you know, again, the apex of his career was Blazing Saddles. This performance was brilliant, and I really do believe that he brought something that was different than maybe what Richard Pryor, who originally wanted,
I'm gonna have to stop you there. Richard Pryor would have killed that role. My point to you is I think he did a great performance, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think if it would have been Richard Pryor, that he would have gotten nominated for an Oscar. Mel Brooks, to this day, says that he regrets the fact that Pryor was not in that film. Not saying anything against the other performance, but it's one of his biggest regrets. He still talks about that. And don't get me wrong, I love Blazing Saddles. It, like you said, blazed the trail for having a black lead in a movie. It talks about racism, and it is a great film. But that year was the year of Chinatown and The Godfather, okay? You got to look at who they wrote.
And I would not take those nominations away from them. In fact,
but don't you think that has something to do with why he got snubbed more that he was in a good year, and less because people didn't like that people didn't see his performance and judged it lacking?
People don't often consider comedies for a lead role. Usually if a comedy gets nominated, it's for a supporting role. And in fact, Mel Brooks has said of Cleavon Little, as soon as I saw him, I knew that was the guy. He hadn't done a movie, but he was a Broadway actor. Everyone who knew him was crazy about him. Up and coming, huge talent. This guy is going to be good. Sly, sweet way of delivering his lines, so talented, perfectly talented, happy with this choice. And that was in the commentary of the Blazing Saddles movie on Blu-ray.
But that was after they'd already been turned down by Pryor. So yes, in the secondary choice, he had all those great things to say. But I'm still going to go ahead and say to you, it's a good performance. You're right, they don't nominate comedies, and that's a tragedy. But I don't think there's any performance on the list of the 1975. I think it was Art Carney, Jack Nicholson, who was it? Al Pacino. You're not taking anybody off of there. And
I would take Dustin Hoffman for Lenny off of there.
Oh my God, no.
Because later on, because I have the history behind me, he's going to go on to win 2 Oscars.
It doesn't matter. He embodied Lenny Bruce in one of the most visceral. I can't even. No, I'm not going to let you finish that one. I'm going to help you.
Get in there.
Let me tell you.
I'm just saying.
Is one of these comedians that you can never say, and Dustin Hoffman became him through the rants, through the drug addiction, through everything. You are not taking any of the 1975 nominees off of that dais. I'm so sorry. I appreciate Blazing Saddles, but that is done. At least with Beast of No Nations, you could maybe take off Mark Rylance, and I think the other one, because I think that it's the Steven Spielberg effect with Mark Rylance.
You're wrong. Mark Rylance, that was the reason I liked that movie. Mark Rylance gave a profoundly incredible performance, and I think it was
I agree with you, but I do still think that if you put Idris Elba up for that year, you could definitely interchange people out. There's not like every single performance in the supporting categories for last year. It was a very, like, you know, so I wouldn't say a bad year, but it was kind of a down year for performances in general. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you got something like Trumbo, where I liked Bryan Cranston, but I don't feel it was an Oscar-worthy performance, got nominated. Beast of No Nation was the victim of being the wrong movie on the wrong net with the wrong cast. You're right, Selma had an all-black cast, but it was still seen. It was one of the highest-grossing movies of that year. I mean, like, it definitely had people see it, and the Academy voters especially did see it, but they just didn't vote for it. And I don't think they voted for it because of lack of diversity. I think they voted for it because they didn't vote for it because they didn't think his performance was as good, because there were some accent issues. There was a little bit the fact that he looks like Martin Luther King. He embodies it, and he gets a little bit more for that. Idris had to bring a character that is very divided, and it is very difficult to watch, but so is 12 Years a Slave. It is an outstanding performance that, you're right, people could see it on Netflix, but these are Academy voters. They only know Idris Elba's name, and they can't pronounce the name of anybody else that was in that film. It's on this streaming network, and I guarantee you a lot of them just passed it over and went to other things.
David Oyelowo. I literally had to practice that for like 3 days so I could get it right.
But the thing with Idris is, let me ask.
Hang on. So in the interest of time, so Jacqueline, I'd like that to be your final thought. I'd like to hear Sasha and then Ashley. So sell me on your pick, Sasha. Going in here.
David Oyelowo did something that I think we would have to go back to Spike Lee doing Denzel Washington in Malcolm X to show a character that was that complex, that raw, that visceral, that entire, and carry an entire film, as opposed to both of you guys have only brought up supporting characters. This is what the Academy is supposed to do, is honor the best. Somebody who has gone above and beyond anything else that we've seen. And what David Oyelowo did, launched his career into a different stratosphere in a way that we would not know him in the way that we do now had he not had that performance in Selma. It was so beautiful. It was so difficult. Were there accent issues? I didn't notice them, and I'm a stickler for that kind of stuff. And he's British. He's a British dude playing one of the great American heroes. I think it was above and beyond anything else that we can see. We will remember it for years to come, and it was a huge snub, and Oscar So White would not be the thing that it is if it weren't for that first snub that then kicked off what happened last year, bringing Idris Elba in, and P.S., he deserves it more for TV than he does for movies.
Oh, she's doing a cocky dance.
Jack.
That's never a good idea.
I wasn't a cocky dance. It was my I ran out of things to say dance, and it's getting hot in my house dance.
All right.
Jack,
Yeah.
Something I just want to say. He also had a star-studded cast to back him up. So when you talk about doing it on their own, Idris Elba really had to do it on his own with an unknown cast.
Carrie Fukunaga.
I have it. Let's hear from Ashley. Final thoughts.
All right, so I would definitely not say that Cleavon Little's character of Sheriff Bart is a supporting character. He is the protagonist of our story. As soon as we're introduced to him, we can see that he's just like, there's something special about him when the ignorant leaders of the railroad job are like, why don't you sing us and then they say an inappropriate word that I will not say, song, and he's like, start singing Cole Porter, and they get all confused, and just the subtleness of the comedy, when he tries to give Mongo a candygram and does his little Bugs Bunny impression, the heart that you see between him and Gene Wilder when he tries to, he wants to do a good job in this town, and people are calling him, sweet little old ladies are calling him awful names, and he's depressed, and, Gene Wilder tells them, these are the common clay of the New West. These are just simple folk, morons, and that the line totally, caught him off guard, and just the genuine light in his eyes that you see in his performance. Again, my guy, I think an Oscar would have benefited his career so that he could have done more and we could have seen more from him. This was a good actor, Juilliard Academy of Arts trained actor who deserved a lot more than he got because of the time period that he lived in. We don't want to give these, roles with a lot of weight and gravitas to African Americans. Your guys, again, they're both still young. They're in their 40s, both of them. It's really sad that they did not get nominated. I will not deny that. They both had good performances, but I don't think this is going to be the nail that will kill their career. These people are going to be doing great things. They still have good films in production, and we're going to see both of these people going places, especially considering Idris Elba was, I think, invited to be a member of the Academy very recently. So, they're trying to make changes, and we're going to see that come down the line. You guys, both of your actors are going to have that chance to shine, where mine, faded into obscurity and did not get that chance. His Oscar would have helped his career. You guys are both stars on the rise.
Wow. All right. Go ahead, Tom. What do you got for me?
Good
round.
That was heated.
That was crazy. That was a crazy round.
some great tweets during that. Metal Joshi feels like his mom and daddy are fighting at the dinner table. And we also have a new watcher, Jason, at the Cylon 41, says he's got to run to a baby shower, but this is his first fan friction, and it won't be as
nice.
Great, we're great to have you. Welcome. And
I know that name. I've heard of him before. He tweeted at me.
Welcome to the show.
As far as facts, though,
Oh, they lost him.
Tom, you did drop off there. You were about to say as far as facts, and I didn't hear you.
Sasha, your face is awesome.
Yeah, it was. There you go. Say that again, Tom. We missed you for a moment.
Pretty factually clean. Joe Davis happens to say that. Oh my God, I'm blanking out here. Who's the guy who said no to the role? Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
I blanked out. I apologize.
Yeah, he didn't say no. The studio wouldn't go with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of issues. We won't get into them because.
Yeah, it's actually like a heated debate as to whether that would be a better movie or a worse movie with Richard Pryor on Twitter, with people having strong feelings both ways. Although everyone loved Richard Pryor, there's no denying that. They just aren't sure if that movie would be the same with Richard Pryor in it.
It'd be better.
Some people love the idea. We have a couple odd-shaped panel regulars tweeting in. We got Billy at B-Buster Bill saying that Jason Mitchell and Corey Hawken were snubbed for Straight Outta Compton, and Janine was also saying that. And then we got Cal, the Kingslayer, saying that Ashley always kills it with her old-school choices and research. Teachers stand together.
It's because I haven't seen a lot of movies, y'all.
Yeah,
No.
I don't have any money or time.
So if you
choice for unmentioned people seems to be Samuel L. Jackson for Hateful Eight as well.
Well, if anybody doesn't know, Ashley pretty much, once she gets everyone's answer, she goes out and tries to see every single movie that is mentioned today. So you can, if you've never seen her notes before, actually hold up your notes for just a second.
This is a crappy example because the Zootopia one I had seen. Sorry, I just gave away an answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's pages and pages of that. So believe me, she does her research. She definitely knows what she's talking about. This is a very difficult round. First, let me just say that losing this round is not questioning that anyone should not have been nominated. But I think that having this discussion is an important discussion. This should not be the only place in which that discussion takes place, and we should continue to be debating these kind of great topics. It's an important issue. So it needs to be mentioned. So there's a lot of fantastic information presented in this fight. Boy, Ash, I really want to give you the point, but there's some things you said that I just can't go with. I think we don't know what kind of movie Blazing Saddles would be with Richard Pryor, but I think that for me, it's not about, this question isn't necessarily about what a nomination would do for an actor's career. It's more about the deserved nature of an Academy Award in this situation. And I think that Jacqueline didn't put up a good point about, what are you going up against in 1974? You're going up against some pretty stiff competition with some really amazing performances. And it's hard in any of these categories to really to figure out, like, who was snubbed versus who, just couldn't make the cut in that particular year. So, but I'm trying to focus on the forward. Cleavon Little's performance is fantastic, and unfortunately, the Academy does historically ignore comedy. So I think it would have been an important nomination in that context. But I think I understand why he wasn't nominated. Whereas the other two actors, Idris Elba and David Oyelowo, I can never say his name right, so I'm just going to call him David.
At least you got the first name right.
Yeah, I know it's David. David Oyelowo is the guy from, in addition to other movies, he's in Leon, I believe. He's like the mob boss in Leon. That's David Oyelowo, right? I think so.
Yeah.
All right, it doesn't matter. We're sorry if you actually watch the show, David Oyelowo. We do love you. We don't know who you are. So I'm looking at the performances in general. I have a very strong lead in Sasha's pick versus a supporting actor in Jacqueline's. I think the thing that really stuck for me, you wanted to take Rylance off, and Rylance won. And I'm like, pick someone who didn't win in that situation, because you picked the winner, and he won the category.
And everybody was shocked.
Now,
it was supposed to, yeah.
I won't say that I wasn't shocked, because I was. However, at the same time, though, like, he did win the category, so I would think that the person we want to take off is someone else in the category. And also the Netflix thing really stuck with me. Like, we can watch this on Netflix right now. This is a performance we can see.
But they didn't. Okay, I know.
They didn't. I'm not saying they shouldn't have. It's just that they didn't. Idris Elba, I don't think is going to. I think both these actors are going to see nominations soon, and I think that the tide is changing. But I think argument-wise, I think Sasha had the strongest argument for David Oyelowo, and he is going to be the winner. So Sasha, you get the points. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
I hope the Black Girl Nerds are not watching, because I just let down the community, boy.
It was a good fight.
Let down the community on that one.
At the end of the day, you can always say some white guy.
No, it's okay. If you think I can hear about this one on Twitter, boy.
It was well fought. No one can say that all three of you didn't fight very well for this category. Kimber, what do we have on the poll results?
On the poll actually favored Ashley's choice with a 42% for Cleavon Little. But David Oyelowo was in second place at 29, but followed very closely with 28 for Idris Elba.
Yeah, it was really tough. Ashley, I thought that they argued better, but I thought you had a great pick. You had a great pick. So no, like, I loved that pick when I saw it. I thought it was so different, and you had a good argument for it. I think that they just hit you a little hard on that.
Yeah, man, I knew I was going to be in trouble. I had a bad dream about this episode, so I'm going to have to really bring it now. I'm going to start.
Well, for people who don't know at home, you are not out of it, because Sasha has 3 points. Now, Sasha, on Fan Friction, if you get more than 2 points, you get a special bonus in the lightning round. I will tell you about that bonus when the lightning round begins, but you did earn that. Ashley, you need this point to stay alive, and that'll force a tiebreaker. You are not out of it yet. We are going to go to round 5. Wow, this is a great fight. So round 5 I call the Look Who's Talking round. There are at least 6 movies this year, 2016, featuring a cast of talking animals. I can't believe there's as many talking animals in film. Which is the best talking animal movie of all time? So just so everyone knows, you can have live-action animals that speak, or you could have animated animals that speak. I don't care, as long as the animal talks to you. That qualifies. Jacqueline, you were going to start us off. I can't wait to hear this pick.
So, my pick is definitely a little bit off the beaten path. It's not what most people would think, because this character that I picked is a character who is a talking animal, and he's not in an all-talking animal film, but he's a character that has a lot more to him than some of these other talking animal films. It's not just a kids movie, or it's not adult themes given to animals. This is a film where this character is a mix of Joe Pesci and MacGyver, and he was a science experiment raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy. And that is Rocket the Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite talking animal from a film. So this is what I was going to say. The entire movie is not full of talking animals. You can go to a bunch of different other ones that have more. But this particular character, I feel, owns something that a lot of the other ones can't, because he brings more to it. He is a character that has heart. He's a character that has a past and a backstory. And he's a character who is a big part of what makes the movie awesome. And you cannot tell me the balls that somebody had to have when James Gunn comes to the studio and says, hey, we're going to have this animated character, and he's going to be a wise, talking, kind of mean raccoon, and he's going to be a mix of MacGyver and Joe Pesci from Goodfellas, and by the end of the film, you're going to be crying with emotion from something that he's feeling. Like, you cannot tell me that that is not having to stick the landing. I think it is more difficult when you have an animated character that has to exist in a world where he has to be assumed to be real and have actual emotions than it is to live in a world where all the animals are animals and we just assume they all can talk to each other. It is a much higher difficulty to make that kind of performance work, and there are so many examples of people doing it bad. Garfield, the Chipmunks movie, Scooby-Doo. This is a movie where they did it, and they did it well, and you cannot tell me when you see the little like puncture holes on the back of Rocket the Raccoon's back that you did not get the feels.
Awesome. This good fight. Ashley, who'd you pick?
All right, so of course I accidentally said it earlier. I apologize for spoilers.
All right.
Picked Zootopia, which, judging by the one trailer I saw, that sloth trailer, I was like, man, I'm not going to go see that movie. That just seems like it's going to be full of dumb kid jokes, not listening to my argument from earlier in the round. But then I actually heard some things about it. I'm like, okay, well, these people that I like and trust on the internet said it was good. It was just kind of more than a kid's movie. I'm going to give it a chance because, again, we should give movies chances. And when I saw it, I went with one of my best friends from work, both English teachers, and we were immediately like, we want to show this movie to our kids because, yes, it's, the anthropomorphic talking animals, but there's so much more to the story than a cute little kids movie where a rabbit and a fox, aren't friends and become friends by the end. There's so many, lessons that they weave into the movie to make it acceptable for that audience to understand, but at the same time it was great lessons that we should learn for how we should treat each other in the real world, but put into a nice anthropomorphic animal package that's acceptable to the public. This movie debuted at #1 at the box office and stayed there for 3 weeks. So that's kind of, goes to its staying power and, that people, wanted to see this movie. It was also the second film from Walt Disney to gross over $1 billion. And in fact, according to, I think, Box Office Mojo, you can still, I guess, somewhere in this country that's still in theaters because the box office is still estimated as of yesterday. So there's probably one little dollar theater still showing it. But again, it's the, talking animals, typical kind of Disney thing. But again, that message of, prejudice and, with Judy, she wants to be a cop, but people are like, bunnies can't be cops. That's, you'll never amount to anything. You need to give up on that dream, sweetheart. And then with Nick Wilde, being a fox, the predator, you'll never be anything more than that. And then that just scene where, he learned for the first time that, he didn't have the same access in society as everybody else when he gets assaulted at the little Cub Scout meeting. I forgot exactly what they call it in their universe. But he's like, why should I even try if I'm just going to be looked down upon? I started crying at that moment because I think of so many people in our society that also feel that way because they've been disenfranchised for so long. So not only is it a talking animal movie, but it has something that lessons that we can take away to try to make our world a better place.
All right, so listen, real quick, Sasha, I promised you that this show was a 2-hour show. We're about 5 minutes from being a 2-hour show, and we're still on round 5. Since you've already gotten 3 points, I'm going to go ahead and make this fight between these two guys.
Okay, but can I just say that I would have said Charlotte's Web 1973, and it's the best, and it makes me cry, and it gives me all the feels, and I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah. So, not to disqualify you, but just in the interest of time, because I know you do have a schedule, and now we're running a little late. So it's going to be just between Jacqueline and Ashley. So the thing I want to focus on is why is your talking animal and or animal movie better than the other one? Let's do this a little quicker. So Jacqueline, you start first.
Okay, I will go ahead and admit Zootopia is a great movie. It's fun, and I love movies where they take something that is topical, something that's hard to talk about, and they put it in these animals, and so therefore it makes it palatable for people to understand. But this is a formula we've seen before, and to me, as good as it is, and the fact that it's approaching race in certain ways, I love that. I do appreciate that. But the difficulty level, it's Toy Story, it's The Lion King, it's all of these, it's Finding Dory. There's so many instances where they have these talking animal movies that kind of do the same thing. They pick a topic, they put it behind cute animals, and they get people to watch something. But there's not a lot of difficulty to it. There's a huge amount of difficulty for you to not only make a believable looking, believable sounding, and a believable in the sense of interacting talking raccoon movie. Let's not forget, these actors are looking at a dude in a green jumpsuit when this movie is being filmed, and they're still able to have emotional and funny interactions with it. He's also a key part of what drives the plot of the movie. I think there's a lot to be said that we have an animated talking animal that is totally believable in a film of live action characters surrounding it, and it doesn't come off as cartoonish. And again, Garfield, the Chipmunks. There's so many examples of when they do this poorly, and you cannot think that the studio was not worried about them not pulling this off. Also, Bradley Cooper completely transforms himself into Rocket the Raccoon, a completely different performance. Anything you say about Zootopia, all those characters are great, but it's just the cool celebrity actors doing the cool things. And in fact, I would even say, for the most part, you know, they're playing to type in a lot of that. You know, it's Toy Story in a zoo. You know, I hate to say it, but that's what it is.
Ashley?
And you mentioned cool celebrities, but Bradley Cooper is a cool celebrity. They actually tried other voice actors, but they couldn't get it right, so they had to lean on celebrity performance to get for James Gunn to get what he wanted out of that movie.
That just proves my point on how good his performance was. The professionals couldn't do it. They had to get to him, and it wasn't because he sounded like Bradley Cooper, because he didn't sound like Bradley Cooper.
Ashley?
And then, yes, he does look good in that movie, but I think if you take, like, the overall, like, message of your movie versus my movie, I think, you know, like, Zootopia is going to be one of the Disney movies that's going to be like you compared it to Toy Story. I don't see a problem with that. It's going to be something that's going to transcend just this time period and be something that's going to be relatable for time periods down the road. There's a reason why this movie is, you know, still technically in the theater. You know, the message is good. It's starting discussions about.
It's a heartwarming film. It's a heartwarming film. I'm not going to deny to you, but you can't tell me that there aren't heartwarming moments in Guardians of the Galaxy. They may not all be related to Rocket the Raccoon, but they are definitely heartwarming moments in that movie. Peter Quill with his mother. The moments when Rocket is holding little Groot, and he's like, but she'll die. You get the feels on that one, and if you don't, I don't know, you've lost something. There is something to be said for difficulty. If you have the same formula over and over again, no matter how great you do it, it's the same thing. This is something completely different, and it was Marvel showing it doesn't have to be Iron Man, it doesn't have to be Thor. We can do something where you have, you know, the Wild Bunch in space, and it can still be amazing, even with a talking raccoon. And the animation difficulty on that, I mean, it was so realistic, and how they made that feel really, really like he was there, you know? And it's a raccoon. He's a raccoon. Like, I can't even understand that.
Ashley, give me final thoughts here. Give me final thoughts.
I personally think, you know, I know we couldn't pick him because Groot is not an animal, but I personally think only having to say I am Groot and we are Groot at the end, you know, was a little more impactful than some of the things that Rocket did, especially when Groot, you know, he's able to change his entire way he speaks his language to encompass that, you know, we are all one moment. That spoke to me a lot more than anything else in the movie involving Rocket. And the scene that you mentioned earlier with Peter Quill and his mother, like, it hit me like a Mack truck when I saw that in the theater.
But it's still part of the film, even though he didn't.
Final thoughts. Let me hear Ashley, and then I'll give Jacqueline. I will give you final thought.
And so, again, most of the things that stood out in that movie, you know, Rocket was funny, but, like, there was more heartfelt moments in other parts of the film. For Zootopia, yes, it's, you know, the formula has been done before, but, you know, that's just kind of how these Disney movies work, you know, copying that Pixar formula, but actually doing it better than some of the recent Pixar films have been doing it. This is something that, you know, people probably didn't expect a lot out of the movie. I know I didn't, seeing that initial trailer that just kind of played up that sloth joke for way too long for me. You know, this is something that, you know, I think surprised a lot of people, and that's, you know, a credit to, like, its staying power that it's still currently in the theater, even though it's already on a Blu-ray. You can, you know, watch it pretty much anywhere. And again, I think the message for this movie is going to hold up a lot better than what Guardians of the Galaxy is. Guardians of the Galaxy is a fun movie. It does show that you don't have to still follow that formula. But at the end of the day, I think Zootopia has the better message conveyed through all of the animals versus just the one animal in your movie.
All right, Jacqueline, final thoughts.
Okay, if this was a contest for what's the most heartwarming movie, you're right, Zootopia wins. But it's the best talking animal movie, and as awesome as Zootopia is, I don't feel they stick the landing. It's not just about what you do, it's the difficulty of it. And I think the difficulty of this performance and what they managed to get across has a huge part of whether or not it is acceptable. And let's not forget, Guardians of the Galaxy was one of the biggest movies of 2013 or whatever. It was a huge blockbuster that nobody saw coming, specifically because one of the co-leads in the film is a raccoon. And he has a lot to do with the film. He is a huge part of the film and a huge part of what makes it work. And I do think that it's a lot harder to accomplish that than it is to do another talking animal movie.
All right. Tom and Kimber, quickly, what do we got in the facts?
Sure. I think it's kind of adorable that Ashley just gave that spiel about how she thinks Groot gives a better performance because her husband just tweeted something very similar. And,
we do not communicate during the show, so...
No, he actually tweeted it about 2 minutes before you said it, so that made it.
Yeah, and I don't look at my phone during the show either, so full disclosure.
No, I'm not accusing you of cheating.
I know.
A lot of love for The Lion King and also Disney's Robin Hood, but I think the most interesting choice that someone mentioned was the Planet of the Apes franchise with Andy Serkis.
Wow, interesting.
Good one.
That's a good choice.
Very
I also
good.
do have to say I love Rocket Raccoon. I literally have a little Rocket Raccoon sitting here. Adorable.
Oh boy. The Adventures of Rocket and Groot.
So, Tom and Kimber, you were listening to the arguments. Who would you pick?
Well, here's the thing. It's a little biased because obviously we're fans, and I've not seen Zootopia. But I didn't hear this, and I really wanted to hear it, was when Drax goes to pet Rocket at the end and his ears pulled back. My heart melted. That's all I'm going to say about it. I can't pick because I don't feel it's... Based on the arguments, though, I think I'm too swayed.
Yeah,
I can't.
I'm Rocket blind.
All right. Then I'm going to fly on my own here and say that, Ashley, I'm giving you the point.
Oh, I got 1 point, yay!
You got a point. You're in the game.
That's all I cared about.
The reason I'm giving you the point is while the thing that you said is kind of significant in that Groot is the non-human heart, I think, more, and he had more to do with his 2 lines than Rocket, who could be a performer. And it's this is my concern. I let you fight it out, but it's not necessarily an talking animal movie in the way that Zootopia is. And Zootopia nails its message, which I think is the point that Ashley made. So for me, Ashley gets the point, but I'm not discounting the fact that you argued very well for Rocket. So fantastic job.
Yeah, that was a great argument. Seriously, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna not get any points, and my nightmare's gonna come true.
You got a point, and you're in it. So we're in a tiebreaker situation. So here's how tiebreaker situations will work this year. I'm going to ask you a trivia question. It's going to be a multiple choice question. There are going to be 5 options. Wait until I read all 5 options. Shout out your answer. Person who gets it right gets to move on and face Sasha in the lightning round. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Which of the following movies was not released in 1991? Not released in 1991.
So you're going to give us all the options?
I'm going to give you 5 movies. You tell me which one was not 1991. If you both don't get it, we're going to do it again with the 3 that remain until we get it.
Okay.
So I'm going to work this out. But anyway, there are 5. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Basic Instinct, Point Break, The Silence of the Lambs, The Rocketeer.
Point Break.
I'm going to say Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, you were both incorrect. Terminator 2, Basic Instinct, or The Rocketeer?
The Rocketeer.
I was going to say that too.
All right, so Jacqueline, pick a different one. Terminator 2 or Basic Instinct?
Terminator 2.
Okay, so what year was the answer the Basic Instinct movie? What year was it? Closest goes.
1989.
I'm going to say 1992.
1992 is correct. Basic Instinct was the answer. Congratulations, Ashley. You're moving on to the
I don't know that movie. That's awful.
I know of that infamous scene, but I've never seen that.
And all I was thinking was, this is perfect as long as Sasha doesn't get this question, because I was pretty sure you knew the answer.
Most uncomfortable movie watching experience of my life. I was about to head off to sleepaway camp, and I was sad. My parents were like, we'll rent a movie, and we'll all watch it in our bed.
I was like 7, 8 when that came out, so I don't feel bad that I didn't know.
Oh, I remember vividly being like, this is awful. My mom just kept going, cover your eyes, cover yours, cover your eyes.
All right. So we're going to do the lightning round. It's 20 seconds and 10 seconds. It's just like the speed round. Sasha, again, thank you so much for hanging in with us. I'm sorry we're running long. This show has been fantastic.
This has been super fun.
Oh, it has been so much fun. This is so much fun. And Brian Hurst, if you're listening on Twitter, I totally get it now. You get so enwrapped in listening to other people talk that you don't want to stop the round. So that's kind of how it happened here. So round one. So shout out your answer. The first person who shouts it out gets to keep it. The other person has to argue for the other one. And Sasha, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what's her special surprise?
Oh, your special surprise. Thank you for telling me. Sasha, normally in the speed round, when you pick an answer, if you're the first person to pick it, you have to go first. Your special ability once in the lightning round is to choose not to go first and go second or the other way around. You can choose what order you get to argue, but you only get to do it once. Okay?
Okay.
Lightning round one. Someone here really likes Keanu Reeves movies, particularly Point Break. It's one of my favorites. But I would like to know, what is the better Keanu Reeves movie? Chain Reaction or Johnny Mnemonic?
Johnny Mnemonic!
Okay.
I guess we get Chain Reaction.
Yeah, there you do. And Sasha, Tom, you're going to be the timekeeper, or Kimber? Awesome.
Yeah.
And time starts, Sasha, when you begin.
Johnny Mnemonic is essentially a prequel to The Matrix, but it's very underwatched, super underutilized, and has an incredible performance by Henry Rollins. Keanu has a speech that is full-on Shakespeare. He is doing Henry V on top of a trash pile. It's beautiful, it's well-written, it's smart, it's funny. I can't believe more people haven't watched it because it's
Time. Ashley.
All right, what movie did I have? Chain Reaction?
Chain Reaction.
All right, so you said that Johnny Mnemonic was like Keanu Reeves trying to do Shakespeare. Like, they already have that movie. It's called the vampire one, and he's so wooden in acting in like whatever movie he's in. At least Chain Reaction's like a fun action ride. That's all I got.
Okay, rebuttal, Sasha.
Actually, the Shakespeare one that Keanu is in is Much Ado About Nothing, and
that's right.
Dracula is the one you're talking about, and Johnny Mnemonic is super fun. It is totally The Matrix with a lower budget, 100%. And Chain Reaction is him looking weird and...
Time. Ashley, rebuttal?
At least him looking weird is something interesting to distract you from the bad acting, and yeah, Much Ado About Nothing, he wasn't good in that one either. Do I still have time?
Yes, you do.
All
right, good. All right, well, I'll ask everybody, but I think I know the answer to this one. Tom and Kimber, who would you pick?
Yeah, I think
It's
Sasha.
hard. It's hard. Oh, okay, Sasha.
Yeah, I think Sasha got her on that one.
Yeah, because I haven't seen either of those movies. So.
Oh, a crime. Jackie, do you want to weigh in? Jacqueline, sorry.
Also same thing. I'd say Sasha.
Yeah, I would say Sasha on that one. I'm sorry.
You guys should all go see Johnny Mnemonic, though. Seriously, it's really good.
I love Johnny Mnemonic. I love that movie. However, calling that performance on the trash pile Shakespearean is a little, I need my shirts laundered. I want to go, I mean, he's unbelievable, that movie. But for a dystopian future kind of cyberpunk film, like, there's not a lot of movies like that, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Johnny Mnemonic, check that movie out. After Point Break, because we all know Point Break is the best Keanu Reeves movie. All right, round two. Best movie with the word cat in the title.
Oh, we have to come up with it? I thought you were going to give us options.
No, yeah, best movie with the word cat in the title.
Cat on the Hot Tin Roof.
Okay.
The Cat in the Hat.
All right.
I'll go second. This is my one where I'll go second.
Oh, that's cruel. Go ahead. Ashley, you get to start.
All right. Yeah, The Cat in the Hat, Mike Myers, given what material he had to work with, they tried to make it a fun and interesting concept. It's something that kids of this generation, they really love that movie. And so it's something for us to, when I have my kids in my class, something that we can talk about and reminisce.
Okay, you said the word try at least twice in that. What Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is it is Elizabeth Taylor doing one of the most profoundly sexual roles with no sex in it. It is so sensual. It is hot. It is Paul Newman. Oh, come on now. Elizabeth Taylor, off the charts, brilliant acting, and all under censorship. So you have all this stuff simmering at the bottom.
Ashley, rebuttal.
And then, again, yeah, that's all well and good, but, like, just Mike Myers really, like, letting loose and being crazy, like, that's Mike Myers at his best, and he just really embodies, that role so well of just being manic.
If you're going to talk about Seuss movies, you got to go to The Grinch instead of going to Mike Myers, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is the best performance of an incredible career. Elizabeth Taylor did so many things that were brilliant, but nothing was ever better than Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and she...
All right, Jacqueline, I'm going to go to you first. Who did you like?
Sasha said my answer, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Brick!
Tom and Kimber?
I mean, the Dr. Seuss one had a cat in it.
Yeah, it's fun fact. I've only walked out of 2 movies in my entire life, and the first one ever was that Cat in the Hat movie.
But based on the argument...
It's so hard for Ashley. Like, I feel for you in this moment because Sasha talks so fast. She's got so many words.
It's the victim of the lightning round.
I get more words out.
Look, we have a T-shirt that
I will be buying that T-shirt on payday.
We have a fan of ours made a T-shirt, and the T-shirt is "Victim of the Lightning Round," and I'm a victim of the lightning round. In the one episode I fought, I got destroyed by Langley. Yeah, Sasha, you get the point. Congratulations.
I hate the lightning round. Just so you guys know, the lightning round is always the worst. Ashley, I get you, man. It's awful. The lightning round is the worst.
And you've seen way more movies than I ever have, so yeah.
Now, Sasha, we don't carry the points forward, so it's best of 5 here. So you do have to get 1 more point. So we're going to go to the final, possibly, round. Ashley, you do need to get all of them.
Way to have confidence in me, Jack.
I'm sorry. I thought about it after I said it. I'm very sorry. We can end now. But this is the last round. Probably. No. Hollywood's best... Oh, you're going to give me the name. I'm not going to give you choices. You're just going to shout out the name. Hollywood's best reporter, and I mean character, who is a reporter.
I can't remember the character's name, but I know the actor. And I know the movie.
Well, shout it out.
From Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Tina Fey's character.
I'm having a super brain fart. I'm gonna have to go Clark Kent, even though I don't want to because there's a better answer, but I can't remember the name. So I'm going Clark Kent.
Okay. And Ashley, you're going the Tina Fey character from Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yes. Oh no, we lost Tom and Kimber. Do we want to wait for them to come back?
No, it's okay. In this case, let's just rock it.
Okay,
they'll come back in. You go first.
All right, so Tina Fey's character in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, she was kind of a behind-the-scenes person, but she took the opportunity to go into a war zone and really establish herself. She had to learn how to be a good field reporter and navigate being in a Middle Eastern country in the middle of, the war on terror, and she learned so much in this movie that is a lot better than, like, the reporting that Clark Kent does in his movies, which is very minimal. Is that 20 seconds?
Sure. Oh, yeah. I forgot they were the timekeepers. Sasha, go ahead.
Wait, should I wait for somebody to keep time?
Yeah, they're going to keep time. They're back.
All right, you ready?
You don't need the timer. You're going to get 20 seconds. Go ahead.
So the deal with Clark Kent is he not only has to be a reporter, but he also has to be a reporter uncovering the truth while at the same time hiding one of the great secrets of all time, that he is, in fact, Superman. How do you report on all these things going on where much of the news is actually you're creating it? That's why he's such a great reporter, because he's able to hide the story and be the story at the exact...
Rebuttal, Ashley?
All right, and then imagine how hard it must be to be a woman in the Middle East and have the people that you have to interview, like warlords, take you seriously. She literally gets sexually harassed by a warlord in a great majority of this movie and has to navigate that.
Sasha?
If you're the last son of Krypton, don't you think that that's the biggest news story of all time? When you have a scoop like that, wouldn't you want to deliver it to the people? Think about the viewership. Think about the readership. That is the story that you need to break. And as a reporter, he has so much integrity, he doesn't do it.
Oh, my Lord. The last son of Krypton card was played. Jacqueline, who are you going with in this one?
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I just need a minute on it. That pause on the end almost had me for you, Sasha. You were like, if you're the last. I just think Clark Kent's a shitty reporter, and I feel like Tina Fey does more reporting in hers, so I'm gonna go with that one.
Tom and Kimber.
My problem is that everyone knows that Lois Lane gets all the headlines on the Superman stories.
Exactly. I can't believe this fight isn't Clark Kent versus Lois Lane, frankly. But go ahead.
I love Tina Fey, and I loved Ashley's argument, so I'm leaning towards Ashley.
I also liked Ashley's argument. Ashley, you get the point. Congratulations.
Somebody has to tell me the name of Albert Brooks' character in Broadcast News.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Woodward and Bernstein in All the Presidents. That's who I thought.
Yeah, believe me, I did the research for this question, and I'm like, let me make sure it's not too vague. And then I started coming up with all these great reports. I'm like, they should have no problem.
Oh,
Clark Kent just fought the unnamed Tina Fey character.
And lost. All right.
You couldn't even pull out Superman to take that down. Okay. Lightning round 4.
The power of Tina Fey is that real reporter.
Round 4. What 2 movie cops from different movies should team up?
That's cool.
Aaron Altman.
I'm not listening to Joe yelling things because I don't know what he's talking about. Nix that from the record.
Aaron Altman is the name of the character, right? I think that's who we want.
That's not allowed.
Movie cops should team up.
Which 2 movie cops should team up?
Okay.
Sam Spade and RoboCop.
Damn it. I was gonna pick RoboCop too.
You still can, as long as it's not with Sam Spade.
Who is Sam Spade?
Yes.
We'll allow her to tell us in her argument.
Oh, I got it. Kitty, stop it. Hold on.
Okay, so
we're good.
I'm gonna pair RoboCop with. God, what was his name?
What movie?
I'm trying. My mind is totally going blank of every movie I've ever seen. So I'm just gonna go RoboCop with Judge Dredd, the newer one.
Nice.
That's actually a good pick.
Yeah.
There goes my husband walking through.
Hi, hubby. All right.
And obviously original RoboCop.
Sam Spade versus and RoboCop. Go.
So Sam Spade is Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart using all of that private investigator know-how, all of that male swagger with RoboCop, who brings the gravitas, has the arsenal, has that scary-ass thing of Peter Weller showing up and just freaking out everybody. If you get Humphrey Bogart and Peter Weller together, I promise you all crime would stop immediately.
Wow. A RoboCop and Judge Dredd. This is the greatest fight ever.
All right, you know what else would stop crime immediately? You team up RoboCop with Judge Dredd. He is judge, jury, and executioner, and he's got RoboCop to help him lay down the law literally. Nobody in Detroit or Mega City, whatever it's called, all crime, it would become a utopia instead of a dystopia. All crime would cease because bad guys would be so afraid to even step out of line.
Okay, but here's the difference between Judge Dredd and RoboCop. There is none. Sam Spade uses his brains, he uses his know-how, he uses street smarts. RoboCop just goes bang, 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 which is very similar to what Judge Dredd does, which is why you need both of them so you have a dynamic duo as opposed to 2 people who do the same thing.
I don't know if you know a lot about the crime in the mega cities, but you're going to need someone that's a robot to handle that, and also someone that thinks kind of like a robot but is still a human to deal with the nuances of the situations that RoboCop's going to destroy.
This is the greatest.
Oh, this wasn't in Mega City. It was for everything.
Oh, my God. This is the craziest fight ever. Tom and Kimber, who the heck are you picking for this one?
Well, I mean, one of my fantasies just happened before my eyes,
Yeah.
so it amazing. Swayed me, but in that too, I feel like Dredd is the straight man, which is hilarious to think that.
So you're picking
we're
Ashley.
towards Ashley on this one.
Okay. Jacqueline.
God, this is so difficult. I'm actually going to lean towards Ashley, although I just want to say that my choice is Gary Oldman and Denzel Washington, just because I want to see them fuck shit up. Those two cop movies
Nice.
together.
Sasha, I'm also going to pick Ashley because you had the balls to say RoboCop has gravitas.
Compared to Joel Kinnaman, come on.
So I'm giving the point to Ashley. We are tied up. This is the final question. This will decide who is the champion of today's Fan Friction, round 5 of the lightning round. Who is the worst Disney princess?
Killing it on these questions today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't know why it's still on me. Go to someone else. Hi.
Because we're pondering.
I know, it's so quiet. The worst Disney princesses. There's a bunch of them.
Yes.
I did not think this would take that long.
The answer is Ariel.
Thank
from
you.
Little Mermaid.
There's a pick. All right.
All right. I'm actually going to go with Belle.
Belle.
Controversial
Nice.
choice.
All right. Ashley, you're going second. So,
No,
Sasha,
yeah.
Ariel.
Ariel's the worst Disney princess because not only does she endanger herself, she also endangers her family. She gives up everything she's ever known for a guy, but we've seen that happen a lot with Disney movies. But the thing with her is she's 16 years old. She's completely off on her own. She's got no thoughts outside of her head besides getting doinked by Prince Eric, who sucks too. And the whole
Time. Ashley, Belle.
While those things are true, Belle is actually the worst because she lets her love of like this magnificent library and Stockholm Syndrome take over, and she kind of loses herself in that movie, falling in love with somebody that was her captor and, you know, using her as a bargaining chip with her father. There's, you know, yes, she can read, but...
Untrue. Belle loves literature, and that's why that thing is actually great, and that's what makes her a great Disney princess, is because she's got a brain outside of things. Ariel literally just wants to get laid and gives up the greatest gift that she has, her voice, because she wants to be with a man, which is a terrible message.
Ashley?
Belle also wants to be with a man, again, who is an abusive person. At least Eric is kind of a throwaway character, but the Beast, like, he messes with her mind, and there's psychological Stockholm Syndrome things going on in that movie.
Oh, wow. Jacqueline, who are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with Ariel. I think Sasha got that one.
And Tom and Kimber?
That is hot, by the way. I just rewatched that movie. Dude, King Triton can get it.
Dude, he's got like 6 daughters.
And they all look different, so you know he has
Where's
different
the wife?
Right.
Where's the wife?
Right,
What
right.
happened to the wife?
Yeah, but anyway, Tom and Kimber, who did you pick?
We're deliberating. Our vote's only one, so we want to make sure we're on the same page.
Gotcha.
Like for me, what really resonated is like Ashley saying that Eric's kind of like a harmless character, but Beast like was shitty, and that's why he got turned into a beast basically, and like now she has Stockholm Syndrome. Like that struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I also I feel like that's not Ariel's only like motivation is just to get banged. She's obviously fascinated with culture, and she wants to
With forks and you know.
What's the word?
Feet. Walking
A
around with feet.
dingle hopper? A dingle hopper?
Yeah. All right, so it's coming down to me as it should for the final. But we got one on each of here, and this is the reason it's not going to be Belle, because she doesn't choose to have Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is the effect of that situation. So it's not a conscious choice. So I'm not going to take points away from her. Like, she's not a horrible person because she has Stockholm Syndrome. That's what happens when you can be in those situations. But Ariel really only wants to get laid. That to me is the final choice. That means come from behind. Ashley, you almost won it. Sasha, you are the victor of Fan Friction. Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much
Yay,
for having me on. This
Sasha.
was super fun, and I really appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this. This was great.
This is one of our best episodes ever. So much fun. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'd like to take a moment to get everybody to say where we can find you. Jacqueline, where can we find you?
You guys can find me. A lot of my work is on blackgirlnerds.com. Please sure to follow us as we head to the Toronto Film Festival later this year. And you can find me online at Miss Flirtus, MSBLERDESS.
I put that, and that's in the description below, so they can also find you there. Ashley, where can we find you?
All right, you can find me on Tom and Kimber's show, Odd Shape Panel, which is going bi-weekly now. Also, if you like to argue with me on Twitter about my movie choices, you can follow me at _Mrs. Davis.
Awesome.
And y'all seriously need to go follow Jacqueline. Her stuff is awesome, and help her get her and her crew to the Toronto Film Festival, because that's like a super great opportunity for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Sasha, you're everywhere. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sasha Perl-Raver. You can find me on Mondays on Screen Junkies doing Summer Movie Report, and then at Collider doing TV Talk, on Thursdays with the Schmoes doing Schmoes Know, and then on Fridays for FX Movie Download. And I just want to say, Jacqueline and Ashley, this was so fun, and I'm so excited that we had a 3-girl panel. That was awesome. And Jack, thank you again so much for inviting me to be part of it.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
So
nice
awesome.
to meet you, Sasha. The champ is here, man. The champ
I can't
is
wait to
here.
hear what you think of Magnificent Seven when you see it at Toronto.
Oh my God, yes, we're actually I'll let it be known here. We actually have gotten on that interview panel. I may get a one-on-one. I'm very excited.
Nice.
Good for you.
It's like a little secret I'm keeping kind of tight, but yeah, I may get to see Denzel.
Oh, that's awesome. And real quick, we know that there was a poll for this week's OSP to find out what the next question was going to be. Tom and Kimber, tell us about your show and when it'll be on.
Yeah, our show's called Odd Shape Panel. It's like Ashley says, Ashley does a better job pitching our show than we do. We watched her in the review you did last week, and she was awesome. But we pick a topic every week. It's a call-in show, and everyone who usually calls in usually gets featured. We haven't really had to turn anybody away, but call in, follow us at Odd Shaped Panel, and find out about how that stuff goes.
So, like Ashley said, we are going bi-weekly now, but the poll just closed for what our next subject is going to be for August 8th episode, and book to movie adaptations won. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be a really fun one.
I have a lot of opinions on that, so I'll be calling in.
If you guys watched the show, on the TUFF channel, of course, please start tweeting me your questions if you have any ideas for book-to-movie adaptations, and that's at SJ+Junkie.
Fantastic. And if you have any questions you'd like to see appear on the show, you can find all the information in the description below, as well as where to find all of us and how to get yourself on this show. And finally, Screen Junkies, thank you again. We do this show as a labor of love for the Movie Fight Show. That is why this show exists. We are all Screen Junkies fans. We appreciate what you do, and so this is sort of our homage to you. You can find out about the Screen Junkies below. If you don't know about them, please check out the description. They are fantastic, and we love them. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. We are so sorry that this was a 2.5-hour episode. It's my fault. But take care, and we'll see you next time on Fan Friction. Goodbye. Have a good